Hey, good evening, everybody. My buddy Lowell is here with me. Those of you who were here about a couple of 2.5 years ago may remember when I did that episode, one of my earliest episodes actually, called The Art of Raymond Johnson. Lowell Wilson was my amazing, he was really the presenter, and I was really his co-host. So I got him back for this, and I'm super, super happy to have you, man. I appreciate you doing this.
Hey, yeah, that was a great show, man. I had a great time, and we've talked back and forth about, doing something again, and this kind of just cropped up, and it worked out good. Glad to be back.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's the funny thing is like, obviously after we did that first one, it went really well. We both really enjoyed it, and I obviously, as I told you back then, I hope that we could do other things in the future. But I gotta say, I could speak for both of us when I say I really highly doubt that either of us would ever have expected that the second show we ever did on vintage illustration would be on Gothic art.
Yeah, that is not what we've talked about, and not what I would predicted either.
Yeah, but it's just kind of the way things worked, and it's cool, man. It's cool, and hopefully, like I said, hopefully in the future we do get back to maybe doing some other focuses on other artists or whatever, or themes or what have you. Yeah, because it's a lot of fun.
But I'm actually glad that we went this way, because I've always collected horror, and horror paperbacks has been like a core of my vintage paperback collection, going all the way back to when I first started collecting back in the 80s. So, the stuff that I'm showing is going to be some high grade examples from my personal collection, and they're like near and dear to me. So it's actually, it's not just like a throw off. It's part of the show is going to be some near and dear, and the stuff you're showing is just amazing, especially the original art. So we'll see what's coming up.
Yeah. So that's it, fellas. So everybody watching, guys and gals, if there's any gals in the audience, tonight's show will be kind of broken up into about 4 chapters, and we're going to start off with a brief visual history of what Gothic is, and then we're going to go into showing the art on the covers of actual vintage paperbacks, but we're going to start with a specific subset of them, which I'll get to when the time comes, which is, it's a really, really cool thing. Then we'll get into the traditional Gothics, and then from there we'll finish off with the original art portion of the show. And in the meantime, just wanted to say hello to everybody. Good to see all of you. I can't, we got kind of a lot to do here tonight. Lowell and I, and so no individuals hello to everybody, but I'm clicking you all in, at least, so you see that you're here. You'll be able to see yourselves on the rewind. So that's it. You're probably talking about a whole bunch of other stuff anyways. And what's up, Tom? What's up? What's good? CJ, good to see you. How low can you go? Guys are always good with the quips, I'll say that.
Yeah.
I don't know, took off, and then I don't know, original comic collector, really enjoyed her channel. I know it disappeared. I had no idea. It didn't disappear, but she has made the what do you call it? The content it's hidden for whatever reason. I don't know, man. I really don't know. My Escape World, what's up? Hey, you changed your name, JT. What's happening? Hey, Vivian, the lovely wife. Thank you as always. And you changed your graphic, your avatar. Okay. Look at that. Grace is in the house. Supported you. I know. Supported you last time. Is here again. She loves Daddy.
Yeah. Hey, she actually likes some of this stuff too, man.
Oh, cool, man. Cool. Hi, Grace. What else? What do you got? TJ, what's good? What's good to everybody? Marcus, let's be goth. I don't know, mascara. I'm just not that goth, Marcus. That's why I'm not wearing mascara. I'm just not that goth, Mikhail, what's good? Been a minute. Jeff Wedding, been a minute for you too. What's happening? And there will be vampires.
Yes.
There may be some vampires. Yeah. So my escaped world, formerly JT. Something is up with YouTube. I think Derek Crabb came in last week and he said something about, "Oh, I'm happy that your channel hasn't changed, the names or whatever." I don't know what he was talking about, and explained it to me. And apparently they changed it on everybody now, and all our names are kind of changing. Look at that. JC now is officially Juan Carlos. What's up, JC? So I don't know what's happening with YouTube, but they're screwing around with all the names or whatever. And I don't know. It's very, very weird, but whatever. It is what it is, guys. Good to have you all. Thank you for being here. Appreciate it. And I know that this is obviously not comic art, and I know you guys typically prefer to see comic art related stuff. But as you also know, I have been known to do the occasional show on non-comic art related stuff because I do have other interests, particularly in the realm of vintage American illustration. So just my way of kind of putting this stuff out there to try to expose it to another audience. And okay, so I'm not going to be jumping a shark. I am not. There will be a bunch of castles. You will see definitely castles, mansions, houses, a mix of all of those. Yeah, a mix of all of those. I hear the kids are saying 6'7" now, 6'7". Still don't know what that means, but I don't know. Maybe Lowell can ask Grace later. She might know.
Yeah.
I've just been seeing on not YouTube, what do you call it? Yahoo. I've been seeing some articles this past week or two about 6'7". That's what the kids are saying, 6'7". Like, I don't really care, so I don't want to read the article just to find out what it means.
Right?
Yeah. So look at that, Grace. Grace knows. She's saying it's so stupid. Thank you, Grace, because I kind of suspected it might be, and that's why
I'm sure it's quite sophomoric.
yeah, and that's why I figured, like, what's the point? I don't need to read an article just to find out about something I think is probably going to be stupid, right? So my daughter's been saying 6'7" for months. It has no freaking meaning. You see what I mean? That's what I'm saying, guys. That's what I'm saying. All right, everybody, real quick, I just want to get right away because I want to get the show started ASAP. So I just want to please, if you don't mind, allow me to do my usual brief promos. Okay, got a couple of promos to do here. So let me see. What do I got here? Okay. So first this week, there's a couple. So first this week, Stingray, our man Stingray, Newell himself, came back from Baltimore Con, and he did a video on his channel for slight, I guess, a tiny unboxing, I guess, if you will, or unveiling of a couple of things he got at the convention. All right, so I'm popping a link directly to that video right there. And Stingray, the busy man that he is, also just, I think yesterday or the day before, did an unboxing. So a different video, another one, maybe 8 minutes long, not too long. And I won't say what it was for those of you who haven't seen it yet. But here I am popping in the direct link to that one as well. So there you go, Newell, if you're there. I don't know if you're here tonight. Oh, yes, you are. There you go. It was a very productive week for you. I can see that, man. So I hope people go and watch that. Check those videos out. And hey, Maki Poo Poo, what's good, buddy? And last but certainly not least, I have my usual Nick Barucci promotion here, and I do have this time. I do have a direct link to the show. It has been scheduled, so I'm going to pop that in here, and I'm going to give you guys. A quick a preview of some of the things you'll have during that claim sale that you can, some original art you can claim. All right, but here, for those of you who are not subscribed, and if you're not, maybe consider it. especially if you're original art collectors, comic book original art collectors. That's the direct URL for this coming Friday show. And here's a preview. I'm going to show you a handful of pieces. First on the board here, let me actually do this. There we go. Here we go. So he's going to have the cover to Archie's Story and Games Digest Magazine number 35 by what I think arguably is the most famous or most well-known Archie artist, Dan DeCarlo. He will also have this fine page from World's Finest, appropriately titled number 315, page 17, by the artistic team of Stan Walk, inked by Ian Aiken and Brian Garvey, otherwise known as Aiken and Garvey. We are also going to, or I should say not we, it's not my stuff, it's Nikki's, but he is going to have this page from Bishop XSE, the third issue, and it is page 6. This one is by Steve Epting, inked by Mark Prudo. All right. And then the penultimate preview for tonight is from Cable, number 33, page 9. It's by Ian Churchill with some great images there, inked by Scott Hanna. So check that out. And then the final one I have to preview is this one. I just want to mention, I was the original seller of this on behalf of the inker, Andrew Hennessy. It is the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. number 1 cover from 2018, I believe. Drawn by Mark Bagley, and as I just mentioned, inked by Andrew Hennessy. And for those of you who may be looking at this and wondering, something about this feels familiar, it's probably because of this. And this was what is known as the success meme, a success baby. Somebody made a meme out of this, and for those of you who don't know, who remember this but don't know, he wasn't making a fist. The kid was simply grabbing a pile of sand, and he was starting to eat it. And so the mother took a picture, and people just thought, oh, that's cool. It looks like he's making that fist. Yeah, tough guy. And then somebody plastered success on it. And it went viral, I think back in 2012, somewhere thereabouts. So yeah, one last look at that. There you go. And that's what it's based on. So check it out. Oh, and next show on Friday, because it's on literally on Halloween evening. It is going to be a show of treats. He's going to have many treats, but he's also going to have a few tricks up his sleeve. So that's all I'm going to say. I don't want to mention what I'm getting at by that. I'll keep it a secret. So yeah, please tune in. And on Friday, and that's at the usual time. Here you go. Check it out. Nikki B. Friday, 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 o'clock Pacific. That's this Friday, of course, and every Friday. So there you go. All right. Okay. I'm going to take one last look at everybody. I'm aching for gravy. Archie at his gothist. Okay, people just saying hello to each other. Good stuff. Aiken Garvey better than bacon and gravy. Nice, Rick. 6767 is so sick. Sure. Smell blue lines and monoprints. Not tonight. Read Dynamite comics. Maybe. You never know. Tune in. Find out. Okay. So we are ready to go, everybody. Pretty quick for me, right? 16 minutes in. And this is what we're going to start off with. The Art of Gothic, a very brief visual history. All right. And it's my pal Lowell who's going to be the presenter of this first chapter of the show. And all I need to know, Lowell, is do you want to start talking, or do you want me to immediately put up my first piece and then you just tell me when to keep switching from there on?
Well, I think we could talk just for a couple of seconds before you put
Okay.
up the first one, right? Because if we're going to talk about Gothic, right, we should probably talk just a little bit about like what is Gothic, right? I think Marcus asked if there was going to be mascara, right?
Gothic is my wonderful leather jacket and fancy suit I have here. You know, that's about my
Right.
best Gothic.
Very cool. So, hey, I've got my non-Gothic gun mole on for my vintage paperback shirt on, my self-promotion. But it's funny because he asked, is there going to be mascara? And so I was going to say, Gothic is not a bunch of teenagers dressed in black with lots of mascara who listen to Sam Hain.
Well,
right?
It is.
It is a little bit. It is a little bit. That's a byproduct of it.
Yeah, exactly.
But Gothic is actually what you have as your background here. See that Gothic cathedral, right? Gothic came out of the Gothic literature tradition, which started. You know, it's arguable about when it started, back in the 1500s, 1600s. The tradition was about, you know, things that were fearful, haunting, mysterious, suspenseful. And you know that also encompassed monsters, you know, different elements of you know, cemeteries, graveyards, monasteries, like the places where things happen. You know, so that kind of tradition is hundreds of years old, right? Probably goes back at least, you know, Hamlet was Gothic, right? His father showed up as a ghost on the castle wall, and he's contemplating life and death with a skull in his hand. You know,
Yorick.
Alas, poor Yorick. I knew him well, right? So it goes way back for us, and for comic guys. One of the reasons why I chose the first slide that we're going to show is, for comic people, it probably starts with Frankenstein, right? Mary Shelley, and you can bring up the slide if you want.
All right, good.
Mary Shelley wrote Frankenstein. I think it was published in 1818. Part of what is amazing, I think she was 20 years old when this masterpiece was published. You know, I hate to be the old guy who's like, kids these days, but you know, kids these days who are 20, like they're still like wiping the drool off their mouth. She wrote like this incredible masterpiece by the time she was 20. And it's a pretty long book, and with all kinds of themes. This copy here is not from 1818. This is Lion Books. Let me see. I got my notes here. This is Lion Books number 146 from 1953. So it's got some of the Gothic elements to it, right? It's got the girl. Now, the girl is most likely dead, killed at the hands of Frankenstein's monster, right? The monster isn't Frankenstein. Victor Frankenstein was the scientist who created his monster, and the monster, I believe, wanted to have a bride, and Victor created a bride, but then he realized that, you know, this would be like horrible, and I think he killed it, and so Frankenstein's monster killed Frankenstein's bride on his wedding night. So that's Gothic,
right?
You know, that whole thing. So what we have here is what it looks like, you know, the dead bride, and Frankenstein's looking at his hands. You know, I've seen somebody had a copy of this on eBay, and they attributed it to Bob McGuire, and I'm like, no way. I'm like, no. I'm pretty certain it might be Lou Marchetti.
I was just gonna say, for me, it's in my. I put it in my Lou Marchetti folder. So
yeah, definitely has that look. I mean, the guy looks like the monster. His face looks like Lou Largo from those later Monarchs that Marchetti did the covers for the Lou Largo novels. But yeah, so this is probably, for comic people, Frankenstein, age-wise, 1818. It's probably like the earliest Gothic that they would really care about. It's had lots of classic, you know, it's been reprinted a million times, but it actually has a couple of pretty classic, cool paperback versions. This is the first one that has like a cover like this. There was an Armed Services edition, I think, that was earlier. But this is the first one with a cool cover, and it's got that Gothic look to it. So I wanted to show this. It's real tough in this kind of grade. I'm always looking to upgrade, but I might have a hard time with this one.
Ron's lens is checking in because of you, Lowell.
Hey, Ron. That's my cousin.
Oh.
He has a lot of interest in this stuff. He loves cool.
You
know, he loves comics and
has
some interest in stuff too. So unless you have anything else to comment on this one, we can go on to the next. Okay. So The Hunchback of Notre Dame. I mean, it doesn't get much more Gothic, right, than a novel that largely takes place in the most famous Gothic cathedral in the world, Notre Dame.
Right.
The Hunchback, it has lots of Gothic elements to the story as well, right? It's that kind of ill-fated love. The monster, Quasimodo, the bell ringer, he loves the gypsy dancer Esmeralda. But of course, she doesn't love him back. She loves like the guy from the army, but the guy who runs the cathedral loves her too. You know, it's this whole complicated story of love and intrigue. And for the monster, of course, it's the unrequited love, which that's actually a recurring theme in a bunch of these kind of horror traditional, before the romance, which it kind of has like this kind of romantic theme underneath a lot of them. The monsters in these, they can't love, but they want to love, so
exactly. But and you know what else is interesting about that comment, Lowell, is that you just mentioned there's this underlying romantic theme, hence why in the 1960s, when the book publishers started this whole line of, trying to get women into reading, and they started what are known as Gothic romances, that's exactly why, because it was the romance element that was the underlying theme, and that they figured, okay, that's what the ladies want, and that's why they started pumping out these types of paperbacks. Even though the irony is that on the covers never had the romantic element, just the suspenseful, spooky elements, Yeah. And you had to buy and read it, and that's where the romance was found, So
right. Although, I will confess to having read one or two just out of morbid curiosity, and we'll talk more about it later. But there's some elements that they would salt in there, those Gothic romance writers that are similar to these, fate and unrequited love, all those kind of things, which are in these old horror, novels as well.
And by the way, sorry, I got clicked on the. So TJ is saying, would you consider Edgar Allan Poe as Gothic?
Absolutely, and it's funny. I'm not going to be showing a Poe paperback, and I wish I could. There are actually several paperbacks, but not quite as many as on some of these other classics that I'm showing. So I did not have a high grade copy of one of Poe's like classic paperbacks. Like there's a pocketbook, which is the same publisher as this Hunchback. It's Poe's Tales of Mystery and Imagination, I believe. I don't have a high grade copy, so I can't show it. And I'm trying to show books just out of my collection, but I actually looked for a nice like scan off the internet, and I couldn't find one. But Poe is certainly in the tradition.
David Kramer says he loves tonight's topic.
Cool.
Appreciate it, David.
Cool. Yeah. So, this cover is known. This is by Isidore Steinberg, who did a bunch of the early pocketbooks. If you see, this says volume number 1 under Notre Dame. So this was actually split. The book was so fat, they split it into volume 1 and volume 2, but they both have the same cover. They just say volume 1 and volume 2. So we're just going to show volume 1. That's obviously Quasimodo the Hunchback looking over the parapets of the the Notre Dame Cathedral.
And I never read it myself, but it's certainly one of the earliest, probably the earliest Gothic film that I ever saw. I saw this as a really young child, and my mother had the big hardcover book, always in the living room. So that was really cool, and I remember loving the movie when I watched it as a child.
Oh yeah, I mean, I watched my favorite one is the Charles Lawton version from 1939.
Oh yeah, that's the one. Yeah,
that's the one. I mean, to me, that's the classic.
Yeah.
With him like swinging in the bell tower, and the oil pouring over the parapets, and all that kind of crazy stuff that he was doing that Quasimodo was doing to protect Esmeralda. It was just romantic as heck. For it's funny. It's like the science fiction geeks like dilemma. He's not going to get he's all deformed. He's not going to get the girl, but you're rooting for him because he has the golden heart.
The heart of gold.
Yeah.
Indeed. All right, shall we take a look at the next one?
Sure, let's move along.
All right. The House of Seven Gables. I have to confess to you, although I know Nathaniel Hawthorne, I'm not familiar with the House of Seven Gables, of the Seven Gables.
Yeah. So I picked this because the House of Seven Gables, it's actually based on a real house that was owned by Nathaniel Hawthorne's, I think it was his niece. It's Gothic, largely because it has this Gothic elements of the old cursed house, right? The original owner of the house was swindled out of the house by the head guy from the town I don't remember if it was Salem, but it was the equivalent of Salem, who accused him of being a witch.
Okay.
And of course the guy got killed, and then the second family, the family of the accuser, right, inherited the house, but then the house becomes this bleak place. And later on, 200 years later, one of the heirs of the guy who was killed comes back, and and he romances one of the heirs of the guy who was the bad guy. So it's got those kind of Gothic elements in that respect.
Okay.
And largely, it's the house. So it's
Sean, our friend Sean is saying that it's a real place in Massachusetts, and that he used to live there. Right? He's on the West Coast now, but he grew up in Massachusetts. He said that he used to go and visit all these historical places when in grade school in Massachusetts.
Yeah. It's a real house from it was owned by Hawthorne's niece.
Yeah.
It was built like in the 1620s, 1630s, something like that. Yeah. But it's got that great Gothic element to it. Obviously, it looks, the old gabled house.
Yeah. All right. From here, we're going to go to another classic that everybody's going to be familiar with. Shall we show them that one?
Sure. Let's move along.
All right.
Dracula, Bram Stoker, right?
Yeah.
The most famous. Look at the thing up on the top. The most famous horror story ever told.
Yeah.
It's interesting, right? I mean, so this is pocketbooks number 452 from 1947.
47, yeah. That's
yeah.
And was this the first paperback edition?
No, there was an armed services. Just like many of these had an armed services edition earlier, but those don't have these painted covers. They have like those little. Oh
yeah, sure, I know what you mean. Yeah,
those little pictures of the hardcover.
Yeah,
and a lot of text because they were just being made as small as possible to be sent to the soldiers overseas during World War II. But this is the first pictorial cover,
right? That's kind of what I was getting at. Yeah, from the era where they started doing painted illustrations on the covers. Yeah,
right. I'll tell you this. I mean, this book is impossible. It's. I had a copy of this in my first collection that I sold while I was out of collecting. More than 20 years ago. And it's taken me, I've been collecting again for almost 10 years to find a nice high grade copy of this, because the lamination just falls apart. It's like,
Yeah.
it's crazy. So I'm really happy to show a really nice, clean copy of this.
Yeah. Imagine all you guys who are comic book collectors or who used to be comic collectors. Imagine, look at this, where you can visibly still see the spine line, and a little bit of delamination on the top right corner, and then delamination on the right hand edge on the way down. Imagine this is still in vintage paperback collecting. This is actually considered one of the higher grade copies for a book like this. That's how hard some of these are to find at all, and let alone in higher grades.
Yeah, I mean, I know a lot of collectors and a lot of guys who are looking for this book.
Yeah,
and I got lucky. I got lucky to find a copy like this.
it's Dracula. I mean, if you're
Yeah,
gonna love vintage paperbacks because of the
yeah.
cover, especially, you're gonna want to get Dracula for sure.
So of course, Dracula is Gothic, right? He lives in a castle in Transylvania, right? The story's told through letters, I think, and reminiscences. It's been a long time. I did read it, I think, a long time ago. But it's one of those stories that's told through letters and flashbacks, remembrances. So Dracula has a. Sorry, I was just looking at the question there. The plastic film covering the cardboard covers. This one does. That's called lamination.
Yeah,
and they're very difficult to find. This particular era of pocketbooks, the lamination was very thin, and you always find it, like torn up, torn off, completely gone. This one has it. You could see on the right-hand side, it's lifting very slightly, but I know a lot of people who would like this copy. It's not for sale.
What's up? I am assuming that's you, Steve. Usually B&G, as you can see, the names are all screwed up now. YouTube did something weird and changed everybody's names or whatever. So I'm assuming it's you, Steve. All right. Sorry. Continue there, Lowell.
All right, that's okay. Hey, I went off on a tangent on condition just because I'm proud of this copy.
No,
but,
okay.
Yeah. So obviously it's Gothic, right? I mean, you could see like the bed she's lying on is like an Eastlake style bed. Dracula himself is hundreds of years old. The story goes he goes to England. He comes back to Transylvania. Von Helsing, the vampire hunter, tries to hunt him down. I think they do eventually kill him. But this story brought a lot of those vampire things that everybody knows today into the fore, like garlic, staking them through the heart. All you comic guys, I'm sure you've seen Vampirella, Tomb of Dracula, all the different comic things all came out of this version of Dracula, and this version of the vampire. So that's it's definitely Gothic.
And then from Dracula, we're gonna go to another one that everybody knows.
Wait, you know what? I have one last thing to say about this one.
Sure.
If you look at Dracula, I do not know who this artist is. It's never been identified, as far as I know. Right. But it's obvious that that's Bela Lugosi.
Well, sure, it's going to be based on him. For sure, they would base it on him. Yeah,
but some of them don't. I mean, you saw Frankenstein. That was kind of like you couldn't really tell.
Yeah.
If it was a specific one, this is obviously they used Bela Lugosi.
Yeah. All right. We're going to segue to the next one. To another very famous one everybody is aware of. Check it out.
Werewolf of Paris. Now, there's several versions. There's several paperbacks. I chose this one because it's a little sensational. There's an earlier pocketbook one with just a werewolf, but I already showed a couple of pocketbooks, and I wanted to show an Avon because I love Avons. It's one of my favorite imprints, and it's just such a great garish, the bloody red background to the title. The werewolf looking up, the girl about to be, vanquished, eaten, whatever he's going to do. This cover is by William Randall, Bill Randall, who was a contemporary at Avon of Raymond Johnson, and he did a lot of covers that look kind of similar to Johnson's covers. They definitely had there was a bit of an affinity there. But so the werewolf is certainly Gothic, right? Because it's like, first of all, in the story, the werewolf is born to an adolescent girl who was raped by a priest. I mean, it's like sick, but it's Gothic, right? It's a priest. It has to do with the church and cathedrals and whatnot. His name is Bertrand, and he has these delusionary dreams. He doesn't know if he's having dreams or if he's actually like eating the flesh of people. It's kind of like a dreamscape novel. He becomes a soldier in the army, and then he's going around and he's killing people secretly. Finally, I think like they try to catch him a few times. I forget exactly how it ends, but he's traipsing around in all over Europe and having these encounters, and it's very much a dreamscape, which is part of that Gothic tradition. This cover doesn't have the castle up in the background or anything like that, but you notice
what the background is. It's unfortunate that the way they did the title blurb covered it all, but it's water. They're right by the water.
Yeah, it's a pool with rippling water, with rippling out effects. Yep.
Yeah.
And it's Gothic for the duality. Part of Gothic is duality. Is it or isn't it? Am I dreaming? Am I not? That comes a lot more into play in the Gothic romances later, which have much less of the real horror aspect to them and more of the suspense aspect. Which
Lee says that it's similar to Hammer's Curse of Dracula, where the werewolf's mother is raped by the guy in the dungeon. I never saw that, so
yeah, I don't know,
but yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, so but again, it's part of that Gothic tradition is that duality. Is it or isn't it? Is the am I dreaming? Did this really happen in my past or not? That's something that kind of comes to the forward in some of the stuff that you're going to show later.
And next coming up, we've got Creeping Horrors, Weird Tales, H.P. Lovecraft. You ready for that one?
Yeah, this is going to give us like a couple of little things to it. So because we're showing paperbacks, I didn't want to show a copy of the Weird Tales pulp, right? But Avon Fantasy Reader was a digest-sized publication by Avon that they did from the late 40s into the early 50s that reprinted a lot of stories from the Weird Tales pulp. Right. And the Weird Tales pulp was full of Gothic stuff, old haunted mansions, premonitions of things from the past that are happening now in the present. H.P. Lovecraft, right? Who you see on the cover there, but not the cover story. H.P. Lovecraft, he did all kinds of stories with these Gothic houses set in New England back in the, people who were living in the 1900s, but they were living in a house from 1635, and there were weird horrors that were inhabiting those houses either from earthly horrors or from strange dimensions and other places. So Lovecraft's, he had a house called the Strange High House in the Mist. Just the name of that is Gothic in and of itself. Yeah. Because the Strange High House in the Mist is going to be in the background of, I would guess, half of the covers that you're going to show.
Exactly.
And Lovecraft actually wrote some stories that had some of that, some of that kind of Gothic romance to it. With artists and Unrequited Love, which we haven't talked about that much. that'll come, with some of these others. But you know, unrequited love with these monsters. They're monsters. I think one of the reasons why science fiction geeky people have always loved the monsters like Quasimodo, they love the beautiful girl. I think the werewolf love the beautiful girl too, but they can't have them. They're monsters. They're horrible. So I think that's kind of why naturally the segue to Gothic romance happened out of this tradition, because that's always part of the background, you know.
Yeah, there's always unrequited love.
Yeah. So the cover story here, The Crawling Horror by Thorpe McCluskey, that's kind of, he didn't have a lot of stories published, but they were in the vein of Lovecraft. This is Mrs. Brubaker, who lives in an old haunted house, right? I mean, it's not haunted in the story. I've read the story a couple of times, but it's an old house, and there's a creeping horror living in it that she sees on the windowsill, in the corners. It's like this kind of psychological things. This cover is uncredited, but several of these fantasy readers, I believe, and I'm going to write a little article about it, just to give you a little pre-news on it. There was a Weird Tales artist named A.J. A.R. Tilburn, who did a bunch of covers, and they have this. You see this kind of all this blobby dripping of her body,
Yeah, it's
over
like
in the corner.
I always wondered about this cover because I love that aspect of it. I'm like, is she melting away into like some liquid? Is that what's happening?
Yes.
You know?
Yes. And I won't give the spoiler from the story, but
Well, you could. I'm pretty sure most people are not don't have this on their top of the pile ready to be read.
But they should though, because these are great stories. I am a big horror fan, so
Yeah.
so I mean, I've actually read quite a bit of his stuff. But you see, like that Gothic stairway, the way that it comes down, the way the baluster is, that's all kind of like that old Gothic house tradition. Tilburn did a lot of swipes. The character on the left-hand side there, that's got his hands on his face, that is a direct swipe from a shadow cover of the Shadow pulp by Graves Gladney from the 1930s. And the guy who's behind the stairs, that is a direct swipe from one of Tilburn's Weird Tales covers. So that's another whole clue to me why Tilburn did. I think Tilburn did Avon Fantasy Reader number 2 through number 6, that all have this kind of weird. He was not a trained artist, and you could tell he did a lot of swipes and a lot of things that they're fantastical looking, but they're not perfect perspective and all the kind of things that you would get out of the trained artist. He was almost like a folk artist. But I love this cover. Number 5 and number 6, I actually have the original cover proofs that I bought. I bought at the in Chicago at the big pulp convention there.
Mm.
It's just craziness. If this was a comic, we always say if this was a comic book cover, it would be worth thousands of dollars.
Yeah, and great, beautiful copy. I have to say, beautiful copy.
Yeah, I pride myself on upgrading my fantasy readers. They're not super rare, but they've become very tough and high grade. Especially these black covers. All you comic collectors know about the black covers. Those edges show like every little bit of wear.
All right, shall we hit the next one?
Yeah, we can go on.
All right.
So we're going to change pace a little bit from the horror, right? Because one of the other elements of Gothic is suspense.
Right.
Right. So now this is certainly quite a Gothic cover. It's got cemetery in the back, gallows, a harpy, woman's head on a bat body in the moonlight. It's an incredible cover. I love it. It's really hard to find in high grade like this. Just letting you people know. If you're looking for a copy, I've been going after these things hard for years now, and they've always been tough. They're getting tougher because there's been quite a little move into some of these vintage paperbacks.
Yeah, because some of the comic guys are starting to get into them because they see how they're like these little artistic masterpieces on the cover, and they see that they're dirt cheap compared to comic books.
Yep, they're still cheap compared to comic books. But they've been moving up, and the flip side is they're more adult. And a lot of them, Cornell Woolrich was just a great suspense writer.
Oh yeah.
This story, Black Angel, is about this is the wife of a guy. The guy always used to call his wife Angel Face, right? And when he stopped calling her Angel Face, she figured out he must be having an affair because he's not calling me Angel Face anymore. So she starts looking into it, and her husband ends up being accused and convicted of killing his lover, but she doesn't believe that he did it. And so she's the Black Angel. She has people who she thinks are the suspects, and she goes after each one of them, trying to find out who really killed the lover of her husband, who's jilted her. So she's the angel still for her husband, but the Black Angel to these men, and especially to the one who actually killed the lover. I'm not going to give the whole story. This is a story that should be read by, I recommend all Cornell Woolrich. Sometimes he wrote, there you go. That's another great one.
That was the first vintage paperback I ever read, Rendezvous in Black.
Awesome.
That's because I ended up buying the cover painting to one of the editions,
Okay.
I was like, oh, I got to read that. I heard so much about the author. I barely read most of the paperbacks, right? I was just into the artwork, and I read it and I was like, yeah, it's fantastic. I loved it. So
yeah. Well, it's the suspense, he just the way that he writes, it's hard to describe. You got, and everyone's not as good as the other. He wrote a lot, but a lot of them are masterpieces, and he really just keeps you, you're just not quite sure what's going on here, and that's a very Gothic element.
CJ's asking, it's an interesting question. Do they all have black in the title? And Cornell Woolrich is known as a guy who has what people refer to as the Black series, because there are indeed a number of novels where black is actually in the title. It's exactly. So
yeah, you just showed Rendezvous in Black.
Yeah, that's why. I guess that's why he asked, because he saw the Black Angel, then he saw me show the Rendezvous.
Yeah, the Bride wore black. I can think of them off the top of my head. There were a whole bunch.
DJ, I don't know if you're being facetious with your really comment. I would think you're old enough to know Cornell Woolrich, but if you're being serious, yes, really. That's my answer. All right, we got to keep it rolling.
This cover is uncredited, by the way. I don't know who did it. It's very cool. It's a little crude. It's like that old early Avons,
early crude,
but it's so evocative.
Yeah,
really cool.
All right, that's going to take us to a surreal cover here. Six Times Death by William Irish, otherwise known as
Cornell Woolrich. I wanted to show this also because we're showing a lot of horror, but we showed a lot at the beginning there, but the suspense element can't be underestimated, especially as you segue into the modern Gothic romances.
Right.
They're much more suspenseful rather than horror.
Yeah, that's
Most of them typically do not actually have a monster show up. There's a haunted house. There's haunted feelings. There's that obsession with things that happened in the past that are projected into the future. There's that whole thing, but there's not so much a werewolf, biting the flesh out of your neck.
No. Yeah, it's once we get into the 60s, then that whole 10 to 12 year run on Gothic romances geared towards women came out. It was all about the suspenseful romance, right? The romantic element was always there in the stories, but wrapped around suspense. It's not horror, always suspense, right? So yeah.
So this is one. I just love this cover. It's just so beautiful. The coloring. Yeah. I've seen it attributed to H.L. Hoffman, who did a lot of popular libraries, that kind of Art Deco kind of style. And it could be him. I don't think it's ever been nailed down, but just the coloring, the fire. So I'll just tell you quickly, this is a short story collection. There's 6 stories. Yes, I believe this is airbrush. Just like he did a lot of airbrushing, like Gerald Gregg did for the Dell books. So the cover, the story this is illustrating is called "The Night Reveals," and it's about an insurance company investigator who's investigating these fires that are happening all around. I believe it's Manhattan, and he's going, and horrible things are happening, and people have died in fires. And he slowly starts to realize, because he sees things in his own house, like weird little clues that Woolrich drops in through this short story. And he starts to suspect that his wife is the arsonist. So you see that face, that's a woman's face, obviously. It's it's kind of that stylized Art Deco mask looking
very suspicious.
Yeah. I'll give it away because it's one story out of many, but just slowly the suspense unfolds, clue after clue, and finally, the denouement at the end is, yes, it's his wife. She's a pyromaniac. She's going out in the middle of the night, evading him even as he's following her around, and she's setting fires in these old tenements in New York and burning buildings down, and people are dying. And the guy, of course, is horrified. And he has to turn her in. He's the insurance investigator. Does he or doesn't he turn her in? I'll leave you to read the story. They're well worth reading, his short stories as well as his novels. 2 other great stories in this book were Marijuana, which was his, was a very famous paperback. It was released in a small Dell 10 center, and Rear Window, of course, which was famously made by Alfred Hitchcock into Academy Award winning movie. Classic movie of a guy who sees things out of his back window of his apartment. And that's that suspense element. Is it happening? Is the guy a murderer? Isn't he? What's going on here, as you and I always say when we look at a cover sometime. What the heck is going on here? This one, it's obvious what's going on, right? This house is on fire, and it's a kind of a Gothic looking house. And in the story, it's tenement buildings in New York, I believe. But it's quite a Gothic cover to me.
CJ says, my dad's great friend wrote the screenplay for Rear Window.
Really?
But wouldn't that have been? Oh no, your dad. Okay, yeah. I guess that tracks on the timeline. Interesting. That's a cool little tidbit to share with us, CJ. Thank you. And Newell says he loves Rear Window, the movie. I know you're talking about the movie. Yeah, me too. I love all the Hitchcock movies. I think they're all fantastic, personally.
Hitchcock is Gothic for sure. I didn't put any Hitchcock in here, but obviously he made story collections that were published by Dell, a ton of them, that shows stories with all these kind of Gothic elements. I mean, The Birds, how much more, Gothic can you get than The Birds, with that Gothic house and the birds up on the telephone wires,
Sure. Peter's favorite is Vertigo. I don't know if I have a favorite. I think I just like them all so much. It's like I just like to watch them all back to back to back in a short period of time. They're fun, man.
Yep.
Okay.
All right.
Let's keep it rolling and on to the next one. And from this one, we go over to this one.
Okay, The October Country by Ray Bradbury.
Famous science, the most famous science fiction author, arguably.
Yes. And what some people don't know, because everybody knows Fahrenheit 451, right? Yeah. The very famous novel about really as much about television as about book burning. But before he wrote any of his big novels, he wrote a ton of stories for Weird Tales that were published by Arkham House, a small publishing house that released very limited editions, and they were later collected because that was such a limited edition. It's very valuable now. He released a whole bunch of those stories, in a Ballantine hardcover and paperback at the same time, called The October Country. Mark Graham, there's Mark. Hey, Mark, how's it going? That's
Yeah,
by
and what's his name? What's Mugnani?
That's Joseph Mugnani is the cover artist for this paperback,
Oh,
as well as for the Ballantine edition of Fahrenheit 451. He did a
oh,
whole bunch.
I guess you'd pronounce that Mugnani.
Yeah, I'm actually not quite sure. But so, Bradbury's Weird Tale stories were written mostly in the 1940s. It was before he got, published in the Slicks. And a lot of them were little Gothic kind of weird tales. And I just love this Mugnani cover, or Mugnani, however we pronounce it. It's these little Gothic houses, little separated. They're on like this barren, windswept plain, right? It's
Yeah.
windswept because you see that little figure with like the cape, and the wind is blowing it back, and he's got this kind of lizard dog on a leash, and they're heading into the wind, but it's just very
very abstract, right? The way the way that the person is drawn, especially,
Yeah. He was not a realist at all. He didn't paint. He painted this kind of abstract, but it still has enough realism and detail that it's like, this is Gothic. I mean, that is an Eastlake style house from the 1880s or something, 1870s, and just the little bunch of them, the perspective. I just love it. It's definitely in the Gothic tradition, and Bradbury's those stories are well worth reading by anybody who's into horror and the unusual,
Right. All right. From there, we're going to go to one of the legendary Robert Maguire's, one of my favorite, or probably my favorite paperback cover artist. Here we go. Conjure Wife from Fritz Lieber.
Yes, and that's a real Gothic, right? There's the castle in the background, the moonlight. There's the girl. You got everything. Now the girl is not running from the castle. That's the difference.
She looks like she's doing some kind of blood type experiments of some sort,
Yeah. Well, if you read the caption, right? Potions in the house, evil in the air, and a witch in his bed.
Nice.
Yeah. So this story is about a college professor who, similar to the insurance investigator in the Woolrich story, he finds little clues, like little things in their dresser drawers, little burnt offerings and things, and it dawns on him gradually that his wife is a witch. And he doesn't like it, and he gets her to try to to renounce being a witch. I believe the story was written in 1943. This is another Lion book. I believe this is about 1951, 50. No, this is 179. This is probably 53, 54. But, so again, totally really has all the elements of a Gothic cover. And of course, it's a novel about actual witchcraft, which you don't really find that in the Gothic romances. So that's why it really belongs here. I've described it to a lot of people as one of the first like fully Gothic covers, but it's not a Gothic romance. It's they call it a science fantasy novel. It really is. It was published in Unknown Worlds rather than Weird Tales, which Unknown Worlds were more lighthearted kind of fantasy tales rather than horror.
Right.
But just great cover.
Yeah. And it's you see at this point, the early 50s, the paperback publishers, books in paperback are really only now widely available at this point, that for about 5-6 years or so. But at this point is where they're taking off, right? It's where like America is starting to read now. And that's an interesting point to make, because these things, as you can see, they're 25 cents up until this point, right? Up until just a few years before this, books were typically only published in hardcover, and they would cost around $2.50 or so, right? Thereabouts, which sounds cheap by today's standards, right? But when a loaf of bread was 5 cents, Now put it into perspective. $2.50, you know, you can get a loaf of bread for your family for 5 cents. Or if I want to read a story for my own amusement, I got to spend, you know, the equivalent of like 50 loaves of bread that I could feed my family with for just to read a book. Like, and so the paperback format is what really just absolutely exploded in America, and it brought literature to the masses, basically. You know,
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, we touched on it in our Johnson show. It was the internet of the 1940s and 50s.
yeah,
You know,
exactly.
it was the equivalent. It brought this stuff. You know, there were a few other earlier paperback publishers, but Pocket, and then, you know, Bantam and Ballantine, Lion, all these with these big painted covers. This was revolutionary. It was, and that's why they put so much into the cover art, because Madison Avenue got a hold of it. They started, you know, hiring great artists to paint covers because they were selling. You know, it helped to sell the book. So
Exactly.
it was a two-way marketing thing.
Yeah, and the early 50s, of course, this is again only a few years into the whole explosion of the paperback novel. Um, Once they saw that, you know, the business was exploding, as you say, they start hiring these artists to have painted covers to attract the reader to begin with, you know, in a second. And whenever they have females on the cover, most of the time they try to. This is the era where they started making them sexy,
Yeah.
even if and when the story didn't call for it, you know, because they just knew that, hey, we'll sell more copies if we do that. So this is really sexy. I mean, such a sheer whatever it is that, you know, she's dress, I guess we'll call it, you know, that she's wearing, no straps, it's coming down pretty low and it's just sort of fluttering in the wind. I mean, that's pretty sexy stuff there.
That's Robert Maguire. I mean, he was an incredible artist. He painted, you know, we call them, just like in the comics, they're good girls, right? It's good girl art.
Yeah.
And he painted good girls. He really, you know, he was an amazing painter.
Yeah, exactly. And Mike, yeah, it's like comic books. The numbers, when you see the number, it's like the comic book. It's just the number of the series. So this is the publisher Lion Library, right? So that's the logo in the top left corner, right? And so they would have like different series, like Spider-Man is one series, right? X-Men is another. So Lion would have this one particular line of books, and they would number them. So it didn't always get numbered anywhere nearly the same way as comics, because they didn't always start numbering them by number one necessarily. But yeah, but that's the number. So if you wanted to get a complete run of, let's say, if you wanted to collect these by publisher, then you'd want to get, I want to get the whole complete run of Lion Library books. That's how you know you have it, is, you know, this is 179. Yeah. You know, so there you go. And hey, Robert, at least in Europe, artists would make paintings in the genre by the score, figuring some publisher would match the painting with some book that they were about to publish. In America as well, though. In America as well.
Yeah. These guys definitely used some leftover paintings to just stick on a book, I'm sure.
Yeah. They would make some, just draw them up, paint them up on spec, and then shop them around to the publishers, and, you know, typically they would get them sold, you know.
Although, you know, that probably wasn't the most common. I think most of them actually got commissioned.
Oh no, for sure. Most of them were commissioned, but it was not an uncommon thing for some of the artists who figured, you know, I'm trying to get work, you know,
right.
Rather than wait to see if they would get a commission, they would go ahead and, you know, not waste time and, you know, paint something up, because they figured, some of these guys figured, well, if they can see what I can do, then maybe that'll get me the jump start I need, and they'll hire me. And once they've hired me, then they'll give me more commissions, you know?
Right. Yep.
So, okay. From there, we are going to jump to this.
Yeah, we just got a couple left here.
Yeah. Beautiful Bill Teese cover.
We have always lived in the castle. I mean, this is one of my favorite books lately. You know, everybody goes through phases, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, there's Gothic elements here, right? You can't see them all. It's in the title, right? They live in a castle. It's not really a castle, but it's one of the biggest houses in the town, and it's set back behind a fence. And the girl you see peering through that hole in the fence, right? Her nickname is Mary Cat. She's Mary Catherine, and she does very Gothic things, like, hides charms and little things in the bushes around the house, and all kinds of little witch-like kind of things that she does. It's the story is told from her point of view. Her and her sister Constance hasn't left the house in 6 years. Mary Cat is the one who goes out into town to get things. They're pariahs because their parents were poisoned years before. And part of the story at the background is the whole neighborhood knows that one of them poisoned them, and they think it's one or the other. I'm not going to give away everything from the story, but it's very Gothic because they live in this Gothic house. They're mysterious. They only one of them ever goes out in the town. Eventually, they have a cousin who comes, who wants to modernize the place, wants to help them out, but Mary Cat doesn't want his help, thinks that he likes the other sister. A whole bunch of little subplot type things.
Little romantic subplots.
Little subplots. But the whole background of it is horror. Shirley Jackson is just great. She's, of course, most well known for The Lottery, the short story that everybody read, I think, in every high school, probably.
I've never even heard of it.
You never heard of The Lottery?
Okay. Heard of it, no.
Okay, you got to read that one. That's
yeah.
that's a classic.
Okay.
I won't talk about it. There's actually a great Shirley Jackson's first paperback was a Lion book.
Oh,
with a Herman Bischoff cover.
Okay.
And the cover is The Lottery.
Okay.
But it wasn't as Gothic as this, so I wanted to show this one. Because this isn't showing the castle, but they live in the big house, and it's surrounded by a fence, and Mary Cat's like, she looks at things from very strange angles, and she's very strange, and the whole story has in the background, who did it, what's the secret, what's going on here. So that's just this book is really tough and high grade too. I talked to your buddy Rob. It's and very cool. They did different printings, so you see that number M2041 up in the corner next to the 60 cents.
Yeah.
That's how you know you got the first one. There were a couple of numberings and ones where they framed it. This is the first one.
Okay. All right. Two more to get us to the end of our historical review on Gothic and what Gothic is. And I'm sure everybody's heard of this one, if not seen or read it. Check this out.
Yeah. So the step
Harry Bennett cover.
Huh? Yeah.
The Harry Bennett cover art.
And I talked about quickly about the Conjure Wife was like a modern Gothic cover.
Right.
This is really like the start of modern Gothic novels to me. This was published, I believe, in 1972, and there's not monsters in it, but there is a sense of, there is a suspense and a dread, right? Because the protagonist is this woman, and her husband moved to this town, and they notice that all the women are, they seem really like very peppy and nice, but they're not deep. They're very shallow. It's all hi and bye and how are you doing, and very kind of
everything's
mechanical.
always perfect here.
Everything's perfect, right? Yeah. Everything's always perfect, and the story is full of suspense because she meets other women who come who are new, and they're talented women. They're artists. I think The woman's name is Joanna, who's the protagonist of the story, and I believe she's a photographer. She's either a photographer or an artist, and then she makes a friend, and then she notices all of a sudden one day, like the friend, she's not interested in the art anymore, and she's, you know, uh, hey, Jeff Signor, he's one of our pals from the boards.
Yeah,
Yeah,
CGC board.
this is a great condition book, and very Gothic. But so this is modern Gothic. There's no monster in the background. The monsters are the husbands. I think everybody's probably seen this or read it. The
Trust me, you
suspense
can
is
spoil it. Stop being scared of spoilers.
the suspense is all the husbands are in the aerospace. They all work with robotics, right? And the wife is like, "Hey, what's going on here?" And of course, it's these women. It's never really told in the story, but they're either androids. They kill them and turn them into like these android robots who are very subservient and like do whatever and wave and smile in the supermarket. Um, one of those things that a lot of women would probably say, "Yeah, you guys wish they were all like." That.
Yeah.
But it's a very Gothic cover. So there's some movie covers. I did not know of this cover until I saw it in my, my scanning all the various book sources one day, and I was like, wow, that's a really Gothic cover. And when I thought about it, I was like, it is a Gothic story. It's got the suspense element, that element of foreboding, of what's really going on here. Yeah, it's 60 years old, but there's a lot of people who haven't read a lot of stories, so
true.
when I post in places, I try not to spoil.
Yeah, but Lowell, for stuff like this, right? Like vintage paperbacks and stuff, I'm telling you, you might get that, out of this entire audience, you might get that one or two people who are kind of like, yeah, this is really interesting. I love the artwork, and it might be fun to buy just for the art, but also maybe to read, And the thing is, if you tell them what happens on these older books, honestly, I don't think I think it'll help in this case. I think it'll be like, oh yeah, oh wow. Even though you're spoiling it, to me, I think that's what it would take for somebody who doesn't normally read novels anymore or ever did to sort of say, you know what, it sounds really good. I don't care that you just told me what happened. I'm going to go read the whole thing because it still sounds really good,
Okay, I'm sold. You sold me. I mean, I've been giving away a fair bit. It's just kind of like a thing. But I guess you're right, especially because we are talking mostly about the covers here. But,
yeah.
But it's
Yes,
the movie with all good. Yeah, there was an earlier movie from the 70s. I think that was even better.
Yeah, that's the first one was from the 70s, I believe, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I wasn't sure on this. This is Harry Bennett.
Yeah, that's Harry Bennett. Oh yeah, I can tell you right away. It's not even like that. I tell you, it's Harry Bennett. Yeah.
Lighted windows in the old Gothic house in the background.
Yeah, that one's got 4 lighted windows, man. Everybody's partying up in there. All right. And that leads us to our last one for the historical visual overview of what is Gothic, which is this one. Everybody's heard of this one. I know that.
Yeah. And
Bryce's Interview with a Vampire.
Yeah, I mean, this was such a huge bestseller, and obviously it became a series. What's interesting about this particular copy is the 4th printing of this Valentine edition is the only one with a Gothic cover. All the other ones have this kind of symbolic cover with the big Gothic font with a bunch of kind of vampirish trinkets around the title in that font. So I don't know what the reason for, but the cover artist is H. Tom Hall, who did a bunch of romances. I don't know if he did any Gothics, but he did a whole lot of romances. And it's doesn't have the house, but it's got the stagecoach in the back with the light shining through the window. And of course, there's the vampire and the beautiful girl. There's no really giving away this story. It would be too hard. It's a very long, convoluted story. He tells, the vampire tells of like 200 years of his life of heartbreak, which, you know, a lot of people liked it. A lot of women liked it because it was kind of going into that romance thing. It has that unrequited love, right? Because a vampire can never really love anybody because they're, you know, he's not going to die. They're going to die. He might kill them. He might suck their blood, you know, or whatever. But the monster is always lonely.
Yeah.
And that's one of the appeals, I think, for these things.
Yeah.
I believe cool. I believe this is 1979. This printing.
That's cool.
It was originally published in 76, so this is squarely in the time when Gothic romances were big. So that might have been why they tried this cover.
Well, no, by this time, Gothic romances were just dying. Well, about to finish the death knell, dying out. Actually, you know.
Mark says sounds like Dark Shadows. Yeah, the vampire even looks a little Barnabas-ish, or Frank Langella-ish from the movie.
Oh, Frank Langella. Oh my God, I used to love that guy back in the day. It's funny, but you know,
look at the vampire.
I would say that a lot of comic book people, like in our hobby, you know, perhaps a lot of people watching tonight, with my audience, heard about it for the first time in the early '90s when this comic book publisher, Innovation, started publishing a comic book adaptation of Interview with the Vampire. And that's probably for them a lot, you know, the first time. It certainly was for me. That was the first time I had heard of it. And it wasn't until years later that I found out, oh, it's an adaptation of, it's a book that came out like in the 70s, you know? So I was like, oh, wow, that's really cool. So,
yeah. And that's likely because a lot of guys are, you know, you're probably maybe a half a generation behind. Right. Like I was in high school, I think, when this came out. So I'm very much into, you know, horror and comics and pop culture and whatnot. And it was such a bestseller. It was everywhere.
Yeah.
But you weren't in diapers, but you were a little kid probably.
I was 9 years old.
Okay.
I was 9 years old, but I was already 2 years into ogling the Angels on Charlie's Angels.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Got an early start. I got an early start.
Good girl art. But this brings us squarely into the Gothic romance tradition, because this cover could, you know, if that wasn't Frankenstein, this could certainly be a Gothic romance cover.
Yeah, for sure. Jeff wants to know which ones are for sale. The Shirley Jackson looks very interesting, he says.
Well, you'll have to PM me later, Jeff. We got tons of stuff. This copy is not for sale. This book is really, really hard to find. There's only one printing. There were probably 60 printings of this, millions of copies, I believe.
Right.
In paperback, but only the fourth printing from 1979 has this cover. The other ones would not be of interest at all to illustration fans.
Right. Okay. Well, excellent. Well, thank you very much. I guess that wraps up the historical portion of what Gothic is. I appreciate it. Thank you so much, Lowell. Very well
Thanks,
done.
Ruben. This is it's been fun presenting this. Now I don't even know all the books that you're going to show. I've only seen a few.
Everything from here on forward is going to be as much a surprise to Lowell as it is to the rest of you. So, I guess that's a good segue for us to get to chapter 2. And for that, let me put us, I guess, like this. And chapter 2 is the Art of Satanic Gothics. And this is a very cool and collectible subset of the Gothic novels of the 70s. All right. And so what what I'm going to show later is the more standard, a whole slew of the most standard looking types of what were sold as Gothic romance. Again, romance always only referring to the stories, because that's what they were trying to sell, was the stories. But the covers never dealt with romance, just the suspense part of it, which is why I've always loved buying, collecting the original art and 700 plus copies of the actual books, the novels themselves, not to read, just for the cover art, you know. But I wanted to sort of show you guys this in reverse order, rather than first show you a whole slew of just the sort of standard variety of Gothic novels from the 60s and 70s. I wanted to start with this one. I thought it'd be cool to show you because in 1972 to 73, Avon Publishing, and yes, Avon was calling, knock, 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 but not to sell you the cosmetics. They wanted to try to sell you these novels. And I don't know how many of you remember. I mean, most of us are not old enough to really remember from having been there, but perhaps as you got a little bit older, as an older child into your teen years, you might remember that in the 70s or 80s, or from having seen or heard about this, maybe through your parents or through news articles, TV articles, that there was a sort of a scare in America in the early 70s in particular, because this was only a few years after the Manson murders from the late 60s. And then people started getting into the occult around that time in America. There was this sort of small niche group of people that started getting into the occult in England, as well as in America. And it started to become a thing. And so in the news, especially in America, there was this panic. You could say there was this general panic by parents who started getting scared of hearing stories. All these people they're doing witchcraft and getting into satanic rituals in their homes. And the thing is that the media sensationalized it a lot, as they've always done. And it was always a lot worse than it really was. There were a lot of stories that were based on rumors and innuendo about people being sacrificed. And most of the time it was not true, and that's why heavy metal started getting a bad rap. Black Sabbath putting these really cool imagery on their covers, very sort of satanic type imagery. And yeah, parents just weren't having it. They thought they took everything literally and thought that, oh my God, we're being overrun. We're being overrun by witches and, all sorts of craziness. And so in 1972 to 73, the book publisher Avon, which was indeed a subsidiary of Avon Cosmetics, it was the same company. Avon, the publishing company, the publishing group, seeing how popular and good selling the Gothic romance novels were, they decided, with all this stuff about the occult stuff happening and seances and rituals in the news, they decided to start publishing a line of Gothics, which, although they were not numbered per se, so each book was numbered because every book published was always had a certain numbered designation, but it was a subset of 12 books, but unofficial subset in the sense that each of the 12 books did not have their own number from number 1 to 12, right? So I think they just wanted to put these things out to try to capitalize on the craze, the occult craze. And what they did was, rather than number them, let's say 1 to 12, they put their own special, they came up with their own special, I guess they call it a colograph. Basically, it's a logo, which is a goat's head. So it's a goat's head, the outline of a goat's head. And inside the goat's head logo, it just said Satanic Gothic. So I guess to let you know that this wasn't your run-of-the-mill romance Gothic. This was more on the scarier side about, all the things that people had been hearing on the news at that time. And it was just a really, really cool kind of thing that I discovered years ago when I started getting into this. And I guess after publishing 12 of these things over the course of a year, the sort of satanic thing died out in the news, and the times were changing, and they just kind of reverted back to just continuing to publish regular Gothics, But this is a really cool subset and very, very collectible. And for readers out there, those of you who may be watching this, especially those of you who buy Gothic novels to read, not for the cover art the way I do it, I think you'll appreciate what I've done here tonight is that you're going to see a lot of books tonight, not only the front covers, but I'm going to be showing the front cover, right side by side to the back cover. So for those of you interested in Gothic novels for the primary purpose of reading them, I think you're really going to be happy tonight, because you're going to be able to watch this later on Rewind and just hit the pause button on every book I show so that you can read the back cover. You can see the blurbs on the back covers. Because I know that for those of you who are readers online, you often don't get scans of the back covers. You don't really know what it's about, and you have to judge whether you want to read it or not based on the front cover artwork and maybe a little blurb that's on it. So tonight you'll, or later when this will stay up on my channel and you'll be able to access it on Rewind whenever you want, and you'll be able to pause on every one and see and read the back covers, get a better idea of what the story's about, and then make an informed decision as to whether you want to track down copies of these books to buy and read them. So I hope you the readers among you appreciate that. Okay, so with that being said, let me take one last quick look at what these fellas here in the chat are saying. And we got thanks Lowell from CJ, trick or treat time. Ooh, the suspense is killing me. Satanic Panic. It was the Satanic Panic of the early 70s. That was actually one of the ways that it was known as the Satanic Panic, actually. Sounds scary. What's good, Yevgeny? Ding dong, the witch is dead. The gas prices? No. Same time, though. Same time. Panic at the Disco. I never listened to their stuff. All hail Cthulhu. Metal music leaned into that sensationalism. They sure did. Absolutely. That put extra rings to be Gothic tonight. Nope. Just my usual. Goat's Head Soup. Great album. Great album. From a great band. I laughed. I cried. I hate Harrison Ford. Ruben the Reader. All right. All right, so indeed we are going to show you now these 12 really, really cool Gothics. Oh, and a lot of you watching live here tonight, I think will really appreciate the artwork on these because of the fact that I think about, I want to say roughly half of the 12 were done by guys that you are familiar with. Two guys that you're familiar with, those being Spaniards from the Warren magazine era. The first being the guy known as San Julian, or as you guys will say, San Julian, and some other ones done by Enric. So Enric Tolstrat of, I guess, mostly well known for Vampirella fame, the magazines. So yeah, so half of these are done by those two guys. So that's really cool. A nice little comic book crossover thing. Oh, and Mike, before I show you, Mike says, is the original art for these covers same size as comic originals and then scanned to shrink? Or am I thinking about smaller books? No. It depended. In book publishing, it all depended on the artist and how they felt comfortable painting. So Mike, everybody painted at whatever size they just felt comfortable with. So the sizes run the gamut. It's all over the map. There was no sort of traditional size the way comics were 11 by 17, you know? So yeah, so there you go. And later on, when I get to the fourth chapter of tonight's episode and I show you the original art, on some of them, I'll be sure to mention roughly what size they are. All right? Okay, so let me show you these. We'll for that, let me change the camera view. I'm going to go here. And yeah, let's jump into this. All right. So once again, the Art of Satanic Gothics. The very first one is by an artist known as Hector Garrido. You'll hear that name a lot tonight. A great artist. You guys may be familiar with his work if you remember the G.I. Joe toys of the 1980s. Hector Garrido was responsible for all the toy packaging art, or the vast majority of it, for G.I. Joe in the 80s. All right. And he had a long career in paperback novel cover painting. All right. First one up. Deadly Friendship by Candace Arkham. And yeah, typical Gothic elements as you see there, right, Lowell?
Beautiful, beautiful, very realistic. One of the things that you'll notice, like coming forward from the stuff I was showing, by the 70s there was a lot more of a drive towards not necessarily photorealism, but really fully realized paintings, you know, with lots of detail.
Yeah, and that thing you see up there, guys, for those of you who might be watching on your phone or something smaller, the green thing in the top right corner, that's the goat's head, and it says "A Satanic Gothic" in yellow letters right inside it. So very, very cool. And indeed, Marcus, it's more like a Southern Gothic, and a lot of the Gothics take place in different places, oftentimes in the same looking type place. But every now and then the settings change, which is another interesting sort of thing that you could get into in terms of the variety, right? Because you're going to see obviously a lot of similarities to the covers in terms of the elements on them. But that's what's fun about it, is occasionally getting some that have different layouts and different settings. Nice blue spectrum. Yeah, the color choice is fantastic. I love it. I would love to have the original to all of these, actually. Well, again, the story inside is what's satanic about it. Her friend was Lucifer. Could be. All right. So let me go to the next one. Yeah, you think it's romance, Tom? You think the lovely lady in the front starts romancing the little boy standing like creepily in the background there? I don't know. That's
it's a friendship. It's not a romance.
It's
deadly. I mean, the title gives it away. You got to remember, you know, and I'm sure with these satanic ones, there's a little bit more of the horror to them than the plain Jane kind of Gothic romances.
Yeah. Okay, so for this next one, everybody, just so you know, it's the only one out of the 12 for which, sorry, readers, I do not have the scan of the back cover, so only the front cover. And that's The Devil's Dance by Jan Alexander. Once again, the cover by Hector Garrido. I love when artists are able to do these almost, not quite exactly, but almost monochromatic covers. You know, drawing almost everything in the same, just different shades of the same color. You know, I think that's really cool.
You look at that tree; it's just blackness coming out of the red.
Yeah. I love how creepy and eerie the branches are, you know.
Awesome.
Yeah, The Devil's Dance. So you know it kind of gives it away that it's going to be some kind of a cultish type stuff happening inside the story, you know. Well, like that. Next on the board is A Family Affair by Lynn Benedict, and this is an Enric Torres Pratt, an Enric cover, and once again, obviously, gonna have you see the Satanic Gothic outline there, just an outline, no coloring in the top right corner. And I think I've read one or two of these, so I can't tell you anything about these stories, but yeah, it's kind of interesting. You could see that she's kind of, you know, by the fact that that's the same person there, 3 images of the same person. She's obviously doing some sort of satanic ritual type dance, you know? So that's kind of the satanic ritualism that you see on the cover, even though it's not overt, you know. And then we go from that one to this one, Her Demon Lover by Louisa Bronte. And yes, for those of you wondering, that is one of the Bronte sisters, the lesser known one. The lesser known one. This one is certainly one I've read. And guys, I can tell you, if you're interested, if you track down a copy of this, I can tell you straight out, while being what I would call very straightforward and formulaic story-wise, okay? Like, in other words, it's pretty predictable what's going to happen. But what is not predictable, what I was shocked to find out when I read this, was that there's actually sex in this, okay? And I didn't even know that they were allowed in these sort of standard paperback novels. I didn't even know that that was allowed at the time. So I was shocked. But there's sex happening. And they're describing a vampire in this novel getting into the bed with the woman. And they literally use words like, starts licking her nipples, things like that. And it's like, what? Whoa. It shocked the hell out of me. I got to tell you, man. I don't know if you were aware about that, Lowell, that these novels.
No, but by the 70s, I think the society was permissive enough that you find that in some mainstream things. I mean, obviously today, with 50 Shades of Grey being a bestseller, like everything is just completely open for whatever, But in the 70s, you start getting that in mainstream novels.
Okay, yeah. I don't know. I just figured it would be, maybe satanic. So, vampires, devil worship, whatever, right? But without sex. I just did not expect the sex.
Well, the Brontes were romance writers, right? So, I mean, look at that castle, though, and the lightning. I mean, what a great cover. It's just, she's got her arms up. She's conjuring up something. Maybe she's conjuring up some sex. I don't know.
Yeah, this is another beautiful Enric cover. Lustful Probing by the Steamy Devil. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. All right. And then after this one, oh, sorry. There was 2 out of the 12. 2 out of the 12, everybody, that I did not have the back cover for. So for you readers, I'm sorry. I can't let you read this one. This one I can tell you, for anybody interested in wanting to sort of collect the subset of 12 Satanic Gothics, this one is the absolute, this one coming up here. Let me show it to you. Island of Fear by Roxanne Dent. This one is the absolute hardest one to find. Very, very rare. You can find it, but the thing about this is, like, a lot of us come from the comic book world, and most of us would like to find them in as nice condition as possible. The problem is that with vintage paperbacks, most of the people that sell them online are just regular used book dealers, not vintage paperback collectible dealers. Those do exist, but most of the people selling used paperbacks online are just regular paperback novel dealers who don't care about generally the condition very much. They don't care about the cover artwork, and they can't be bothered to mention or to even show you a photograph of what the cover looks like. So oftentimes, even if you've heard of it, somebody tells you about it, they show you it, like I'm showing them to you, and Lowell and I are showing you tonight. Oftentimes, you're going to see 5 or 6 listings for what I call a rare book. Like for this one, Island of Fear, okay, you may see several listings, but you're going to have trouble finding somebody selling a copy who has an image of it, and anybody having an image of it. For this particular one, there may be 1 or 2 people, but it's a tiny, tiny thumbnail sized image. So you still can't really get, a great close up view as to what the damage or whatever condition issues it may or may not have,
Yeah, Ruben, and on top of that, books from the 70s had a lot lower print runs than a lot of the books from the 50s and 60s, because paperbacks went through a big contraction and then they started picking up again in the 70s. But some of these books did not have the huge print runs that a lot of bestsellers had. So you had less copies to start with. And then, like you said, finding them online, especially, there are some huge sellers like thrift books who, they don't show, they use a generic image of the book and not
Yeah.
the actual image. And then when you get the book, like thrift books, they
Right.
put stickers, they put UPC stickers on the
Right.
spine. Then that you have to get, like, I've gotten lucky and gotten like nice copies of books from some of those like mega sellers.
Yeah.
And it's like, it looks nice. And then it's like, you look at the spine and they put a sticker on it. It's like, that is like sacrilegious. That would be like, sticking a sticker on an action number 1 into a comic collector.
Yeah.
It's very disheartening.
Yeah. The other thing also is often, because used booksellers are not selling, they're selling you the book to read, right? That's what they're thinking about. They're selling primarily, their focus is selling to readers. And because of that, most of them don't even know that there are people out there who do collect these novels only for the artwork on the covers. So because they don't care about that, or they don't even know about it, not only do they, they often don't even put an image of the book. They certainly, for them, in most cases, will never tell you, even if it's listed in the book or on the back cover, they won't tell you, they won't even think to tell you who the artist is, And oftentimes, if you decide to take a chance and you order from a used book dealer, and I'm not talking about a vintage paperback dealer, right? Who cares about the collectability. I'm just saying a standard used book dealer.
Yeah.
If you decide to take a chance and you order a book from them that doesn't have a picture showing, they're going to send you whatever, and you may think you know what the cover is going to look like, but you may just be getting another random printing of it, right? And they're not going to help you out after, because all they care about is, we listed the title, the author, we told you the copyright date inside, and that's it. And we gave you what we told you we were giving you,
Yeah. And above and beyond that, Ruben, when you do get lucky and it is the rare one and it's in great condition, they send it to you in a paper mailer with no backing board, no cardboard, and the postman crams it into your mailbox, and it gets crushed, and you pull it out and it's like, wow, this used to be beautiful. I have a whole paragraph that I put into my order whenever I order a book online, whether eBay, AB, whatever, sources that I'm buying from. I tell them, ship it in a box, please, because this thing survived this long in nice condition, and it's going to get destroyed.
Yeah, exactly. Look what CJ is letting us know. He checked it up. Only one on eBay sold for $65. So yeah,
I believe it. It's a beautiful cover. Look, it's got almost that same hanging thing that was on that Cornell Woolrich book.
Right. And Marcus,
in the background. It's got all those elements.
We're waiting for the list, the manifest list, to be released. We're waiting for that. All right.
The fear is most likely going to be in the woman protagonist's head, of what's going on here, what's going to happen to me.
Yeah. And by the way, if anybody's interested, Lou Marchetti is the artist on this one.
Oh, Lou, he was great.
Yeah. And so then we go next to the next one. So that was that was the 5th one in the set. Here goes the even half dozen here. Lord Satan, another one by Luisa Bronte. And that's pretty scary. The original to this was available many, many years ago. And then it got resold, and I missed it both times. Oh, well, what are you going to do? You can't have it all. But yeah, this is another typical one. Very creepy. If you see in the back, right behind the bride, there's 3 creepy looking dudes standing back there. Oh, yeah. And I know there's some kind of craziness in this one where, some devil worshiping guy brings in Satan. Satan suddenly appears, and I think they want her to fornicate with Satan or something like that. Or, yeah, it's got some craziness to it. So, I hope to one day read, if I read more Gothics, it'll be these satanic ones. At least the one that I read was kind of fun, So if I read more, it'll probably be more of these.
Ruben, we showed in IR 11, we showed the Stepford Wives, but a lot of this comes out of IR 11's earlier novel, Rosemary's Baby, which was a monster hit in the late 60s.
Yeah.
Became a huge movie hit about a woman who gives birth to Satan's son.
Yeah. I only know the movie. I love the movie, but I never read it. Yeah.
The movie is incredible. Every time if I'm flipping by and it's on, I watch it again, even though I've seen it like 25 times. It's just so, it's, man, no special effects. It doesn't need it except for a little bit at the end. But, just the suspense, the dread is awesome.
Yeah, Peter agrees. The creepy movie, indeed. All right, let's keep it rolling. From here, we're going to go to a San Julian cover. And this is The Mark of the Rope by Miriam Lynch. So this is justifiably creepy. A couple of creepy little girls there. Or one looks kind of like a little girl. The one behind her maybe a little bit older, but beautiful, beautiful in a cemetery at the bottom of the hill where the castle is. Great creepy looking tree. Nice tombstones. Yeah, so very, very nice San Julian cover. And from there, and oh, by the way, and you interrupt me if you think I'm going over to the next one too quickly, you want to say something, just let me know, Lowell.
Yeah, no, this is just beautiful. I'm admiring it. Some of these I haven't seen some of these, so I'm a fanboy just on some of these too.
Yeah. And okay, it's just because we got a lot to show, so I gotta speed it up. We'll go to the next one in this Satanic Gothic subset called Red Wine of Rapture by Margaret Worth, and another really cool one with the woman down in the what looks to be the basement dungeon of a castle. With the goblet spilled on the table and blood spilling out onto the floor. I love that.
Yeah, a little different.
Very, to me, this is what it really appealed to me, is that as a guy who grew up with comic books and being familiar with those 70s black and white magazines, the Warren mags, Vampirella, Eerie, Creepy, and all that. This stuff reminded me of that. This was kind of like a kind of a crossover from the comic book magazines of that era. And I thought, wow, this is just really, really cool stuff. It
is very cool. Very cool.
Collect really cool suspense mystery stuff that doesn't cost me anywhere near as much as the comic book stuff does. Yeah. And this is again another Enric Torres Pratt cover. Murdoch says, "Man, making me miss painted covers for books and posters for movies." Yeah, I know, the good old days, right, man?
Everything now is fonts and stuff, man. It's digital, AI. Geez.
And your friend Paul's here, Paul Foreman.
Hey.
Welcome, Paul. I prefer a Zinfandel, says Marcus. And CJ's a Cabernet guy. I'm not a wine guy at all, so I'll leave all the wine to you guys. All right. From there, we go to the next one, which is called The Sorcerers. And Dorian Winslow wrote this one. And an interesting cover. Don't know at all what this one's about. I don't think I've ever even read the back of the cover. But it's interesting how she's looking into the mirror. And you don't see anything but her face. You don't see the body in the mirror. So I don't know what that's about exactly. I
know the vampire. You can't see the vampire and the undead in the mirror. It's kind of some play on that,
Yeah. Well, that's what it reminded me of, exactly. So I'm like, that's what I was kind of thinking. It's like, oh, see, she's dead, but she doesn't know it, something like that. Or she's a vampire and is only sort of realizing it now as she looks in the mirror, And this was painted by Walter Popp.
Wow, Walter Popp did that late, huh?
Oh, you're familiar with Walter Popp, are you?
Yeah, he did a ton of vintage paperbacks back in the 50s. I mean,
Okay, yeah,
and sweat mags. He did all that kind of stuff. I didn't know he was doing anything in the mid to late 70s. That's interesting.
yeah, yeah. That's cool. That's what it's cool how you find out these things out of the blue sometimes, right?
Yeah, well, that's why this is cool. I said I'm a fanboy here. I'm getting to know some of these.
All right. So from there, got 3 more Satanic Gothics. Check this one out. This one's really creepy. This was another San Julian piece. Check it out. The Twisted Tree.
Oh yeah.
So really, really cool with the tree that becomes sort of a humanesque looking being. Again, at the bottom of a hill with a castle on top in the background. Some
Classic.
weird horse-like character. I don't know if it's a statue or what the heck that thing is. And the woman is standing in between. Like, yeah, so it's like very, very creepy, suspenseful. It grabs me, and I'm like, man, if I ever have time, I really do want to read some of these, you know?
Yeah, this got the elements though. You know, witches were always out in the woods dancing and doing craziness. So it's
Alice Cooper. Yeah. Right. Two more.
Looks a little Alice Cooperish.
What's that? I didn't hear you. Would you repeat that, Lowell?
I said it looks the tree creature looks a little Alice Cooperish.
Oh,
with the mascara on the one eye.
Yeah. I think that's why you said it.
Yeah.
All right. The penultimate one is Jennifer Stevens's Vengeance of the Cat Goddess. And yeah, for those of you who are interested in that whole idea of old ladies that end up getting old and living with nobody but their cats, 100 cats. This seems like a play on that, but it's a beautiful younger woman with a bunch of cats there standing by idly, waiting for something to happen in the background, which is a pretty cool theme for a Gothic cover. It's not something you typically see, obviously, but of course, this is part of the Satanic Gothic, so I guess that makes more sense, you know?
Well, it's very dramatic because the rest of the cover really isn't anything. So it makes you really look at the girl, you know?
Yeah, that's it. The way it's all lit up like that on the right side, right? Yeah, half woman, half cat. Indeed, which half? Indeed, Jeff. Year of the Cat. Cats will eat your eyes when you die alone.
Look, I mean, your cats have always been mystic symbols, right? For which all the way back to Egypt. You look at those pharaohs' tombs. They had cat like death worship.
Yeah, exactly. The Egypts. Yeah, that was a big part of the Egyptian times. All right, and from there we go to the final one in the Satanic Gothic series. And it's another San Julian cover. San Julian, to those of you who know him that way. The cover for When the Century Blooms by June Wetherill. And it's another creepy, cool one. I don't know how well you guys can see it, but the way he drew her knobby knees and the knobby ankles and the feet. It's cool, but it's weird and
the legs are really long.
What's that?
The legs are really long.
Yeah, bony and long, and but yeah, you gotta draw up the paint up the creepiness, the creep factor, right? And kind of draw people in with that. But sadly, because these are all from the 60s and 70s, well, these particular ones that I'm showing now, these 12 Satanic Gothics, obviously not 60s, 70s, 72, 73. But in all told, everything I'll be showing tonight will be showing is from the 60s and 70s. And sadly, as you guys know from the comic book hobby and industry, the printing just wasn't great back in those days, right? The printing quality wasn't great, and it makes it hard to see on a lot of these paperback novels, especially when they use darker colors. It was
I was just like, looking up myself. Is that like a castle way up in the upper left corner?
I'm not even sure, but yes, I think so.
It looks like, yeah, it looks like a castle up on a mountain, which
Yeah,
is such a
I
typical
would think
trope.
so. Yeah, but yeah, so there you go. The 12 Satanic Gothics, a really, really cool subset. And I imagine it would be cooler for readers out there. So let me see that. Come back here to you guys. All right. And you know what, man, at some point, I'm going to have to get you to start talking so I can go run. I forgot to get my water tonight. Get my water.
I snuck some water when you put up the Gothic screen.
What's that?
I snuck some water when you put up the Gothic
Oh,
screen.
yeah.
You can't lose your voice yapping around like this, like we do.
Yeah, I know. A great idea for an episode. Really gorgeous stuff. It just dawned on me how much Corbin would have killed it doing paperback covers. Indeed.
Okay.
Thanks, Chris. Appreciate that. And again, when you speak about crossovers with, vintage paperbacks and comic books, there was occasional crossovers. One of them I mentioned earlier. I could tell you also, those of you really into comic books, you probably know, and maybe this is a good time for me to segue and go get my water and have Lowell talk a little bit about this, that for a time when the comic book, well, DC in particular, when they saw how popular that the Gothic romance novels were selling during the 70s, the early to mid 70s, they decided to get in on it. And they thought, hey, maybe we should publish something similar to that, right? I don't know a lot of the history behind it. Do you, by the way, Lowell?
I don't know the history of like why they decided to do it, but it was money, right? They saw money being made, but they started doing titles like Dark Tales of Forbidden Mansion, and they went very Gothic with the House of Mystery and the House of Secrets. And I'm sure all you comic guys know all the incredible Neil Adams and Bernie Wrightson covers on those. A lot of those are super Gothic, all throughout the 70s. And Marvel did it too. Marvel started, they restarted Journey into Mystery with a new #1, and they were showing adaptations of Robert Bloch and Lovecraft stories. Part of that was also because of the Conan revolution at Marvel.
Right.
But the sword and sorcery and Gothic filled DC and Marvel, their horror and mystery titles in the 70s for sure.
And Rick mentioned the Wonder Woman 199, that classic cover by Jeff Jones, right, with the hangman about to chop Wonder Woman's head. And I don't know if you know, Rick, but and anybody else, speaking of crossovers between the comic book world and the paperback novel world, Jeff Jones did paperback novel covers from time to time as well. So there's another little connection between that world, both worlds, the comics and the paperbacks.
Yeah, he actually did quite a few.
Yeah, exactly. And I'll probably show a couple. I think I've got a couple to show tonight, but I don't know. I'm not sure. I originally had twice as many that I was going to show, but then I decided, you know what? Let's keep it to a good kind of time frame for this episode, and hopefully we have enough fun with it that we do a second episode down the line, and I can show others in a future episode. But okay, Kelly Jones is very Gothic. Well, he's done a lot of Batman-esque type projects, So let me see now. Let me change the view for us, and let me see, how am I going to put us? How about we do, let's see, this. Let me see. Uh, Hold on, everybody. Let's see what would be the best to show to show all of you. If we could do this and it's bigger. Yeah, I think this. I think I'd rather. Yeah, this way it.
That's fine. They'd rather not look at us, man.
Nah, it's okay. We like to make it's better. It's more important to make a connection with your audience rather than spend a bunch of time for them never seeing who's speaking. You know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So here we go. We're not gonna talk about anything in particular about these covers. We're just gonna sort of cycle through them, everyone, and just get so you get an idea of the similarities between them, and then you might also pick up on some of the differences. You know.
Just give us the artist if you know them, Ruben.
Yeah, whenever I can, I'll definitely give you the artist. I'll mention it absolutely. You know. Mark letting us know that DC's Sinister House of Secret Love has some great covers by Gothic romance painters like Podwill and Zeal.
Yes.
Awesome cover, says Tom. Absolutely. Colors, sorry, I should say. But yes. Very, very nice colors. Sheer 90s sell books. They did indeed. And I preferred the 11th. The 11th, CJ, do you mean the 11th out of the 12 I showed, or are you making a joke?
No, the 11th doll, I think.
Oh, the 13th doll. I get you. Okay. Making a joke. Of course, I shouldn't be surprised. But yeah, this is a Walter Pop cover. So there you go on that one.
That's great, man. You schooled me on Pop.
Screwed you on what?
You schooled me on Walter Pop.
Oh, I schooled you. Yeah. Oh, I'm happy to school you. Better than I school you than I screwed you. That's for sure. And what have we got next? So let me see here. Look at the difference in artistic style. Now we get much more into much more sort of realistic illustration, you know. But it's almost like it's like fine art mixed in with illustration, you know. The realism of the woman, but stylized with that branchy sort of electric thing going through the middle of the cover. You know, all the other background colors surrounding it on the top and the bottom. That's kind of very fine art-ish, you know?
And graphic design, a little more graphic design, like they've sitting in that arch. It's not like the full cover.
Yeah, exactly. Let me see. We got, I don't know. Of course, I won't tell you if I don't know. I'll only tell you the artists if I know. If I don't, I won't obviously mention. Beautiful, really super detailed here on this one. The foreground, middle ground, and background. Again, one of those really cool ones where it looks almost monochromatic. It's mostly reds with a little bit of greens, you know. So that's really, really cool. But you know, it's amazing when you see these up in person, right, Lowell? Like the detail when you really get in up close, the detail in the paintings, you're like, wow, like it's really beautiful stuff, you know.
Yeah, like you said, I mean, unfortunately, even later 70s, even up till now, the reproduction techniques that they had can never show you the detail you see on the original paintings, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
They get a little blurred out.
Exactly.
But still beautiful.
Yeah. And here we go to a sort of a less, one that's more different in the sense that at this point there was a time where, of course, as time went on, the book publishers began to wanting to emphasize the name of both the title and the author, and they started stupidly, of course, in our opinion, making those much more prominent on the cover and shrinking down the artwork instead, you know. And that's
I call that the attack of the giant fonts. It started in the 60s, and it really kind of blossomed in the 70s and 80s. Yeah,
exactly. It just got worse and worse as time went on. Real shame, because I'm just like, wow, this Hector Garrido cover, you know, with you got the two classic elements of the woman running from the castle. The castle looks just outstandingly beautiful, but rarely do they also show a demon, looming up in the sky on the cover, and that's what sort of makes this one different. So it's fantastic. I would love to see this larger. CJ says the same thing. Sweet painting. I'd love to see the original, right?
Yeah.
It's not Rick. He actually Hector Garrido typically used oils, believe it or not. And certainly all the ones that I own, I own a lot of Hector Garrido originals, and the ones that I own are all oil. Where's the Beal? Yeah, so that's a really, really cool one. And this is like one of the ones that I would love to have because of the fact that it has that extra added different element that most of them don't, which is that demon added to the castle and the woman, And let me see what we have next. Yeah, so this is really cool because I know a lot of the people watching right now don't know, but people that are into vintage paperbacks, very well aware of what we call Ace doubles. And it was a publisher called Ace where they would have 2 stories in each book, although the way they did it was you would have one side, a painted cover, like a typical paperback novel, but then you'd flip the book over, physically flip it over, and they would have another painted cover. And that's exactly how you would read them. You would open the cover, read the novel, and half the book was one novel, and you'd flip it over. And so they were literally publishing them, one of them upside down against the other. And there's an actual there's a terminology for that.
Dos a dos. Dos a dos. Dos a dos.
Oh yeah, the dos a dos because it's Spanish. Back to back. Do a do, French, really. But yes, exactly. Thank you.
That's my Brooklyn coming through. Dos a dos.
do a do. Yeah, back to back in French. But so this is like a play on that, and it's really, really cool. Showing you, 2 titles, right? And Belmont doubles. So yeah, these are pretty rare. You don't, not many paperback, in the paperback era, not many publishers did that other than the Ace with the Ace doubles, right?
Yeah.
So that's really neat. Double Top Secret Gothic. Hi, Jer, what's good? A twofer, indeed, a twofer. 6'9" greater than 6'7". Thanks, Rick. And let me see what else we got here. Berry Hill. So this one only different in the sense that the artist kept everything to sort of a montage, and it's a montage of, yes, the woman far in front of the mansion, but on top of a melting lit candle, which is different, right?
Yeah.
So it's part of the reason I like this one as well, because again, it's something different than the usual,
Still Gothic though. Still the elements.
Yeah, still typically Gothic, indeed. Here we got a really cool one. I love this because of the fact that it's like those cool old black covered comic books, right? For the same reason. I love the pitch black darkness, but artistically speaking, I just love it because you can play with the lighting coming through the gate because the rest of the fact that the rest of the cover is all black, and it's intriguing. You wonder what's going on there behind that metal gate, the wrought iron gate, which beautiful too because it's so intricately detailed,
Yeah, and for a collector, a black cover book like this, that's a bear to find without creases on it.
Yes, exactly. Just
any like one little crease, just across the cover, and you lose some of that effect, which is why us paperback collectors, just like comic collectors, you get crazy about the condition, but especially on books like this, you want a really nice copy that doesn't have any, white lines going across that black.
Exactly. And here we have another one, which interestingly, they also published as a close-up on the back. And very, very different again, it's just kind of the painting style, very different to what you normally see. This one, I'm not sure who did this one. It reminds me of Harry Bennett, but I don't think it is.
Yeah, it's
but
a little more realistic than he
yeah,
usually is.
interesting color choices. This one again reminds me more of sort of fine art. Fine art. The background in particular, mixed with illustration.
You know what it strikes me as a little bit like a Gold Key comic book.
Oh yeah.
It's that color palette, I think. Think of like Doctor,
Yeah. Some of those gold keys. Yeah. It's a good point. Yeah. I know what you mean. Yeah, the color palette. Indeed, Rick. And just for those of you who don't know, the Gothic paperback novel industry, these covers are very well known for their typical elements. And one of the elements, other than having a woman, standing in front of or often running from a mansion or a big house, a castle, another element is that the house, the structure, typically always was painted with one single light on in a window. And I say typically because there are some, and this is as a collector, it's one of the things that becomes fun to collect. When you're collecting these novels, as I did for a long time, it's fun to try to track some down that where the home, right, the building structure doesn't have at least one window lit up with a light. And there are some. So that does exist. Some covers do exist with that, but they're very rare. Very hard to find them without at least showing one window lit up. So that's pretty cool.
You're getting deep into the geekiness.
You never know who is watching and listening. And, so I figure like, hey, these elements we sort of, mention when bring up, it's these sort of things that make them potentially more collectible, something fun that somebody might look for as a challenge. You're like, hey, let me try to track down only the ones that don't have a window lit, Yeah. So I figure, anything that makes it more sort of more enticing to collect, why not, Adds to the eeriness indeed, Rick, exactly. And here we go with a Lou Marchetti cover. The Black Angel, there's that black again, but not by Cornell Woolrich.
Yeah.
So a very
cool
cemetery scene.
Oh, right?
Beautiful structures, all the solid structures, right? The tombstones that are really cool. And I actually can't tell right now because it's very small on screen, but I feel like maybe the windows in that house in the background might not be lit up, or is it maybe at that point in the pointy tower on the right side? Maybe it's lit.
Yeah, it's a little hard to tell without having the book in hand. But what's beautiful is the sky color. Like usually they're a lot darker. This has that. It's that beautiful sky. It's still eerie.
Yeah, and you got that nice white mist coming off the ground, right? Flowing down the hill. I like that too. Now this one's really different. Check it. This is by a well-known vintage paperback artist who did all the other genres of vintage paperbacks, Victor Kalin.
Okay.
And this one's interesting in the fact that you don't often see supernatural things on a standard Gothic novel where a skeleton is a character holding up a candle, right?
Yeah, that is unusual. That is.
Yeah, very unusual. And
it's the title of the book is Black Candle, right? So
right. And it's also one of the more scarcer ones. It's not rare, but if you've seen enough of them, you'll see that it's not rare, but it's less frequent that they would show interior scenes on the covers, right? Where they're inside the mansion or the castle. And here's another different one where you got an element you don't see often. Again, rather than, let's say, a demon looming overhead above, some weird black dog, And And you look
Devil
at the
dog.
cover, if you look at the cover copy, it's like it says, every time the big black dog appeared, someone died. Lottie feared she would be next. And of course, it says it's a novel of the psychic occult. So more witchery a brewing, you know?
Yeah. Great
Let
coloring,
that
like the
score
pops
approve.
out of that dark background.
Sorry, what'd you say about the background, Lo?
The great coloring, how she pops out of that dark background.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Yeah, and I love that the sky starting from down where the tree is, right? The way it's lit up down farther away and it just gets darker as you go up, you know? Yeah, very cool. And here we have a guy well known for his women, his females in other genres of paperback and paperback novels. Charles Copeland. So my friend Lynn Monroe, who is retired now, but he used to put together paperback artist checklists and publish them, you know, on his website. And I used to put checklists together myself, but I would keep them on my computer. I didn't publish them. He did one on Charles Copeland, so it's good to check out Lynn Monroe, his website, even though he's retired. Lynn's website's still up. I think you just Google lynnmonroe.com and you can find the checklist for Charles Copeland. See a lot of beautiful Copeland ladies on that one. And yeah, so it's cool to see him doing, he did some Gothics as well. Interesting thing about this one for me is, again, you got the structure at the back, but rather than just rolling hills or grass, you know, it's kind of broken up with this. I don't know, what do you call that? Is it just a stream?
Yeah, it's like a creek, and she's walking along like a dirt road
Yeah.
alongside it, I think.
Yeah, exactly. Right, and then it goes up into a hill again, right?
Yeah, she's very long. Charles Copeland was phenomenal. He drew these. His women were kind of elongated. They looked like they were all very tall and leggy. A very unique style.
You want to see really exaggerated long-leggedry. Jerome, or known as Jerome or Jerry Podwill, better known for his science fiction covers. He did some Gothics, and boy, he had a penchant for painting some really long-legged women, like abnormally tall. It's like you can tell when you look at that. It's not like he made a mistake. He did it often, and it was just an effect that he just liked the look of, you know?
Right. Yeah.
CJ, thank you. Gully? Maybe a gully is better than even creek. Not a word you hear often, a gully. All right, let's keep it rolling. So this one, I like this one because it's again very different, because here you have a structure in close-up, but then you have like this other close-up of all these young children, single-aged children, all kind of lying around inside the balcony of the structure, right? And that's all just in the background, very realistic. But in the foreground, rather than just sort of being outdoors, it's an image of the woman sitting at a table, obviously doing a seance, holding hands with other people. Right. So very, very rare, you know? Very different to the usual that you see. Excuse me. So it's creepy also. I think it's creepy because you see the kids, you know, you're wondering what the heck is happening to the kids back there.
Yeah,
you know,
it's something evil for sure.
Yeah. Bleak November, it's called, and it definitely looks like it's a bleak story. So yeah, really cool.
You know who painted that?
What's that, Dillo?
You know who painted that?
I don't. I wish I did.
Very realistic.
Yeah, very realistic. Yeah. Here we have the Blue Taper. And this one was printed many, many times with different covers. This one was available for sale many, many years ago, but I was going after so many other things. I couldn't afford it all. But I particularly love this one because I love, like, when you're going to do a Gothic interior shot, I really love it when it's like inside an old castle, especially if it's like down the stairs or in the basement, because it just gives it that more of that creepy feel to it, you know, like an old dungeon, you know, back in the days when they used to like chain up people in the dungeons and starve them, you know, and torture them or whatever. Yeah, so
that keeps it squarely in Gothic.
yeah, I really love the setting on this one, you know. And here we have one that is by Enric Torres Pratt. Just very typical, of course, with the woman in front, a gated, nice building in the back. Again, love it with almost monochromatic. Just a little bit of different color for the candelabra and the candle and the fire and her face, her skin. But yeah, really, really beautiful Enric cover. And yes, indeed, man. You know, Enric was amazing. Very, very cool. And sorry,
that could be off of Warren.
Sorry, can you repeat that, Lowell?
That could be off of Warren.
Yeah, exactly. That's my point. Exactly. That's why I love some of these so much, you know? I do enjoy playing Dungeon. I love that Dungeon play, man. Yeah, I love his Vampy. Yep. I get it, man. I get it. Here's a different one. Again, it's not what I guess you could say it's rare enough that with all the thousands of Gothics that were published over the years, I could say that you definitely don't see hundreds, you know, of Gothics where you see the house and the woman, rather than being in front of it and running full figured, like, you know, she's just kind of like looming above. So it was done every from time to time. I've seen a few of these like these. But yeah, it's interesting because it gives us a nice different added element to it, you know. And the other thing I gotta say, just to be honest and stick with the honesty here, Lowell, don't you find it interesting that the artist used a model that would be considered unconventional looking?
Yeah, you know? Not just a waif.
No, but I mean just the features of her face. It's got a sort of a squarer looking a facial structure, but rounded at the bottom as you come down the bottom of the sides of the face. It gets rounded, very rounded.
When I say not a waif, I mean not just like a skinny little typical model type.
I know what a waif is.
More full-faced.
Yeah, more full-faced. Yeah. But she almost has these dead eyes.
Yeah.
You know, almost kind of dead, lifeless eyes. You know, which I guess for a Gothic it fits, right? Yeah.
Right. So they made the elements fit a different way than usual.
Yeah, exactly. Ghostly indeed.
Yeah, ghostly.
And another Enric Torres Pratt, a candle for the dragon. Now, that's really beautiful. You know what I like about this? The way he and you know, no surprise, he knows how to draw women. Because obviously I love the castle too. And his color choices, especially at the bottom, how he did the foggy bottom, but mixed in like these blues and pinks, and really, really nice. But what I really love is on the woman's figure, it's sexy in a way that's very like he pulled back, right, by doing the whole. All you see really are, in terms of skin, mainly the hands and the legs, but you can tell she's got very, very nicely toned legs, right? She's fit, and she's wearing one of those sort of, I don't know, do you call it in those days? Was that called a trench coat, even if it went above the knees? I don't know what you call those types of coats. Do they have a name or just a coat?
Yeah, I don't know, but it's very fashionable, obviously, and they would tie them with a belt at the waist, and they would look very, very fashionable still, even on cover.
Yeah, Marcus says more modern, sexy with the legs instead of a long gown. Exactly. More modernized at the time, so showing a little bit of skin there, which they weren't doing often. You know, usually covering it up with the long gowns. But yeah, and it makes you wonder. You know, did she have time? Did she have to leave the castle in such a hurry did she have time? Was she in bed nude? right? Is she nude under the coat, or is she wearing like a negligee, but we can't see it, you know? So it's sexy, but not overtly sexy, you know? Yeah, so I like that. And here's a Jerome Podwill. Jerome Podwill. This one, though, not an example of one of ones that I'm going to show later where he's got super, super long legs. This is not one of them. He didn't always do it. But yeah, very famous again for his science fiction covers. And yeah, did some nice stuff. Again, it's very traditional. This is a very traditional, woman running from the house with the house in the background. Nice cloudy sky, the moon reflecting on the body of water. But very, very nice. Very nicely drawn, nicely painted, and a beautiful choice of background color. It makes it stand out a lot.
Another purple one. She is pretty long, but like you said, not super exaggerated, but she's still tall. She's not short.
Yeah. No, for sure. But you'll see what I mean. You'll see what I mean. Mm-hmm. You're gonna freak when you see them. I see. When you see it later. Okay, guys, those of you who don't know a lot about vintage paperbacks, some of you I know do know the names of maybe one or two artists who worked on them. And if there's even one name that you have maybe heard of in the past, it would be Robert McGuinness. And Robert McGuinness made famous what today is known as the McGuinness Girl, okay? And what he did on vintage paperbacks, okay, what he made really famous was that he was the first guy, and not only, but almost only, because even after he came into the field in 1958, not many other artists decided to do what he did, which was he would hire models, right? Like most of these artists that worked on these books, they would use models, right? And they would photograph the models and then paint off the photographs, right? A lot of the artists would use their wives as the model. But if they were not married, or if their wives, didn't look nice enough, right? Didn't have the figure enough to be on these covers, they would hire a model, and Robert McGuinness was the first guy to actually go out and hire actual models, not sort of girl next door looking models, but he actually went to modeling agencies like the Ford agency and Wilhelmina Models, believe it or not. And that's why his work became so famous, because whereas most other paperback artists, women on the covers looked sort of normal girl next door looking, more realistic, females, McGuinness was always hiring actual runway type models from Ford and Wilhelmina agencies. And because he was hiring from those scale modeling agencies, they always had haute couture. So his covers are famous for not only using women that looked like models because they were models, runway type models, but they always wore the highest of high fashion, because in hiring them, of course, those models had access to high fashion, and that's what made him famous. And so while McGuinness worked a lot in all the genres of vintage paperbacks from 1958 up until literally he was doing covers up until about 2 years before he passed. He passed away last year, and at the age of, I think, 96.
Yeah, late 90s.
Yeah, was still painting covers up until a couple of years before he died. And so he did probably 20 or 25 Gothics, and this is one of those Gothics. And with the Gothics, which was what was really, really interesting about the McGuinness Gothics, is that contrary to all the other covers he used to focus on, where he focused on wanting to show the beautiful high fashion models, with the Gothics, he actually always focused on making the model really, really small and focusing on doing a beautiful job on the background, making the castle or the mansion the character of the piece, you know, as you see here. And boy, that looks so realistic, you know?
Yeah. Beautiful.
Really, really, really fantastic.
Probably just, he wanted to stretch his legs a little bit and, show
Yeah,
his
do
chops
something
on some
different.
different stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Do something different, right? Metal Elf Collectibles. Frank Frazetta did so many great novels. He did novel covers, indeed. All right, so let me keep it going. We have another Jerome Podwell right here. And this one's a little bit different than the norm in the sense that it's got the typical elements, but you don't usually see a man also standing in there near the woman, you know?
Yep.
So that's kind of interesting.
Great title, Castle Cliff.
Castle Cliff. A lot of the titles are really pretty cool, actually. Here we got A Castle in Canada. And this one is by Alan Cass. And I don't know anything about Alan Cass. I only actually came to know Alan's work because Mitch Itkowitz was representing him at one point. Those of you who, obviously most of you watching are comic art fans. Mitch. And he was doing illustration art as well. And at one point he just had a bunch of Alan Cass paintings on his website, and most of them were Gothics. And very good artist. Don't know anything about him, but very good artist. Yes, indeed. The Maple Leaf, baby. I hate the Blue Jays. I'm going for the Dodgers. Yeah, so happy they won yesterday. Go Dodgers!
That's sacrilegious for a Canadian.
Hey, the baseball season is a regular sport. It's not the Olympics. So I don't care about it's not a country thing for me. You know what I mean? The Expos are gone. That were my team. I've hated the Blue Jays since 1977 when they first came into the league. And that's it. I've hated them since. And yeah, so there you go. That's all I got to say. Thank you, Rich. I appreciate that, man. So check this out. A very rare photo cover. You don't see these often. Now, I will admit, I'm happy that, most of them are paintings. I would never really have been interested in them if they had mostly been photos, but because they're so rare that they do them with a photo cover, and particularly this one, I really enjoy it because the setting, the way they set up the layout is very, very much like many of the painted ones, right?
Yep.
Creepy girl in the same type of flowy dress, the face hidden in shadow and, the rocky background. I can't tell if it's a building or like the side of a cliff outdoors. But they did a great job sort of setting it up to be kind of like the photographic version of of a painted Gothic cover, And yeah, the way they hide her face in shadow, that's perfect. I love that. They did a great job with that. Yeah. Yes, the Lions did very well today. Thank you, CJ. And so did my Patriots, baby. Woo! Okay. Let me keep it rolling. Okay. You know what, Lowell, I got to tell you, one of the elements for which I have bought original paintings from Gothic novels is the backgrounds. I love it when they have ornate, incredible backgrounds like this, the settings like this. Like, what an absolutely stunning interior. Like, what a building. I don't know what building this is, but what an outstandingly beautiful setting to use for reference and to turn it into a painting. this is exactly the type of cover that I would and have in the past bought. Like even when the woman is really small, I'll buy it just because I adore the setting itself. You know,
the grand staircase.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, they just look muddy in print. I know, CJ. I know. I can imagine how beautiful this must look in when you see the original. But here we have Darryl Green. This is a Darryl Green cover, and not completely typical in that, again, the difference here being the shadow of a man who is this time in front of her, and not even a man behind her or chasing her, right? And she looks terrified. So she either fell after running, or you're wondering, was she just kind of lying there, sort of sitting in the grass, contemplating something as she looks over the ridge, and then this guy, whoever this is, suddenly appeared out of nowhere. It asks all those questions. And I love the fact that we, the viewer, are basically that person casting the shadow. Right?
Yeah. And it's not super realistic. It's a little impressionistic.
Yeah, and that's the kind of style that Darryl Green always had too. So yeah, exactly. Marcus puts it perfectly. It's us. It's us from our point of view. Yes, the Cliff's Edge. And the Catherine Wheel by Patricia Wentworth. Just want to put it out there, even though I haven't read this. I learned over the years of collecting these novels and the paintings. I used to have a customer when I used to set up at the local convention to sell this stuff. I had a customer that would always buy up all my Patricia Wentworths. Apparently, she was a very well collected author back in the day.
Mysteries, not just Gothic.
Yeah, exactly. And the only thing I know about the Catherine Wheel is that in the early 90s, there used to be an alternative rock band called the Catherine Wheel. Did anybody remember that? I mean, you're a musician, Lowell. Do you know anything about that?
No, I'd have to Google that, but maybe they named it after this book for some reason. Who knows?
You never know. Yeah. Oh, I actually believe that. I mean, why else would you? Yeah, why would you come up with a name? Like, where would you come up with a name like that, right? So that's what I always figured it was.
Yeah.
Mark says it's very nice that Pyramid actually published the artist's name on the back cover. Yeah, not always, but very, very often. Yes, indeed. Yeah, not most of the publishers, unfortunately, did not do that. So
yeah, Dell did that for a while too.
Yeah, Dell did it a lot. Yeah, for a few years. Yeah, exactly. So this one's very different, and I don't mean just because they again, like we've seen before, did a quick close up of the back, really close up of the front, of the painting. Obviously, on the original painting, you see the back half of the crow, and they use the back half of the crow as a close-up of it for the back cover. But because it's a montage once again, right? Giant crow in the front, right? The house this time is not the back; it's the middle ground, and the female is the background. Yeah,
a little similar to the one with the full-faced girl, but this is the crow. It's a different, different thing, but kind of like that.
Yeah, exactly. And here we have another one of those fairly rare photo covers. And while I would say that the layout on this is what I would call boring, there's nothing happening here. I would say, thankfully, the one positive thing about this, again, because all they decided to show is the photograph of the woman's sort of neck up and her hand. Thankfully, they set it against a pitch black background, because at least that makes it stand out a lot.
Yeah.
So I love the black background.
Yeah, and look at the background to the title up at the top. It's almost like a bat shape.
Yes, very bat-like. Yeah, like almost
kind of cool.
Logo.
I'm not a huge fan of all the graphics and stuff, but
yeah,
that's a pretty cool one if you're gonna have it.
Good point, CJ. She looks like she's holding Cheech and Chong's joint. Yes, sir. A giant spliff, indeed. Maybe that's what it's all about. You know, she's smoking
maybe
the
clary.
Smoking hot. All right. All right. So we have a very colorful cover, and this is by an artist by the name of Elaine DeWillow, a very rare female artist who worked in the paperbacks at this time. And she is the wife of John DeWillow. And John DeWillow worked in paperbacks as well. He was one of the rare artists who had the tendency to spend almost the entirety of his career in one genre, and that being the Western genre. So a lot of Western covers were done by John DeWillow. And Elaine DeWillow did a lot of these, the Gothic covers. And you can usually spot them. Once you see one or two Elaine DeWillow covers, you get a sense of not only her color palette, but the texture, the skin texture of the women and the texture of the clothing. And you can start picking them off pretty easily from that point forward.
Yeah, she did a lot of straight. She did a lot of straight romance too. A lot of big bestsellers.
Yeah, the straight romance, right on. Yeah, exactly. A nice purple and orange mix, indeed. Daphne from Scooby-Doo? No, not quite. Looks like her though, yeah. You know, all grown up. Right. Okay, so here another outstanding piece in terms of the layout. This is again the legendary Robert McGuinness. And I mean, first of all, the first thing for me that really makes this cover outstanding is the tilt, okay, the camera angle. The fact that the photographer had to lay down on his stomach on the grass and look up and just keep the camera on the ground, but kind of just tilting it upward, you know? And having that tilt, I mean, it's just, it just makes the drama, it intensifies the drama so much more, you know? And again, love the realism in I mean, the woman is realistic, of course, but look at that column on the left. The column is it's spectacular. Yeah. You know, you can really feel the texture of it. It's got realistic texture. It's got weight to it. I love the way that even though the background's, again, monochromatic, on the, you know, you could see the reflection of the other branches on it, you know, on the column. That's just beautiful. And I love the fact that we're really closed in on the mansion. It's not just pulled out. We've pulled in. We're only getting a small part of it, you know?
Yeah, you know what's interesting? Looks like there's just one light in the window.
There is. What a shocker, right? Gopher's eye view. Yeah, that's right. What's that? 706. What's that? 706. Oh, you just noticed. Okay. I forgot to tell you last week, Tom, or actually 2 weeks ago, I crossed over. I quickly went from like 696. It was 696. And then suddenly, yeah, quickly went to like 705. He's talking about subscribers. Nailed the expression. Yeah. Oh, that's great. I love it. Yeah, the window is lit. 6, 7. Yeah. All right. Here's another one. Beautiful. And for me, if I were to buy the painting, I would be primarily buying this because of the background. One more time. I would buy it just for the background. I love that so much. Oh my God. I just love that. The colors, just the solidity of the building, the texture of it. Oh my gosh, I love it. Yeah,
the moon with the clouds.
Yeah, and this is another Hector Garrido cover, everybody. And yeah, Barbara Eden, sure. A beauty. It is. Very beautiful. Yeah. Very, very nice. And okay, so this is a very true rarity. This is, if you want to talk rarities, this is absolutely a rarity. So for two reasons. While the formula does get followed here with a building in the background, first of all, the building is very, very modern looking. It's not a house, right? It's not like a house. It's not a mansion, right? It's not a castle. You know, it's almost like an older style. I don't know. What do you call it?
Like a warehouse building.
Yeah. You know, but what a place where it's not for living, you know? So that's the first thing that's different. And then they cut off the woman, yes, by a body of water. And then you got the woman in the forefront. But first of all, not only is she, let's be honest, she's unattractive. Okay. You don't usually see unattractive faces on the models. Okay. They might not always be complete, you know, what you would consider, 10 out of 10 babes. But I think it's fair to say this is an unattractive face on this model. Wouldn't you agree, Lowell?
Yeah, I mean, kind of plain at least.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say unattractive, but you know, that doesn't look like glamorous. That's for sure. She's not a McGinnis girl.
Oh, definitely not. Definitely not. And the crazy thing about it is, how rare is it that she definitely ain't going to be running from the house because she's in a wheelchair.
Yep.
You know? And no, she's clearly not running away rich. Exactly. Yes, Rick, thank you. Like an institution. It looks like a fancy plantation house. What? She's hot. Marcus, all right, man. Different strokes for different folks, as they say, you know. Oh, that's funny. But MJD, what's that? Was in a lot of made-for-TV movies. Okay, I don't know. But yeah, no, very rare that you would see somebody, you know, in a wheelchair. So that's why I like it, because it's so different from all the rest because of that, you know. This one of my there's a little run of covers on these signets where the titles have the beginning, the first letter of the first word that look like that Gothic Old English lettering, like this one. Right. And they're all by the same artist. And I do believe they were a completely different styled Ron Lesser drawing them.
Yeah, doing it super realistic.
Yeah, a completely different style than, because Ron Lesser is known for basically having copied the McGinnis style for a large portion of his career, you know, in the first half of his career. He was basically aping the McGinnis style. But for this series of Gothics, yeah, like fantastic. They all have the same look and they don't look like his usual style. Really, really beautiful.
Well, and he got a lot more realistic as he went on and moved out of that McGinnis phase.
Yeah, yeah. And then later on into the 70s and then the 80s went even more realistic because, of course, at the time, that's where things were going in book publishing. If they weren't doing photographs, then they wanted the paintings to look photographic, right? And so he started doing tons of photorealistic stuff, you know? And okay, let's go here. So here we have another one in the sense that different in the sense that it's more modern. She's definitely not got the old sort of early 1900s looking negligee, right? The flowy dress, if you want to call it, right? It's got like a modern 70s style, you know, pants and top, you know? And so that's what makes it very different. And of course, the close in on the building, whatever type of building this is. And interesting that there is the one light lit up, but it's in the doorway rather than the window, you know?
Which is what you can do for an interior shot like that kind of. Yeah. Well, that is exterior. But yeah, they're not showing any windows. So the one place that they can have a light, they got it.
Yeah, exactly. She's modern because she's braless. You think? Mod goth. Right. And then we have this, The Devil and Mrs. Divine. And I really, really love this one. It's absolutely beautiful, technique-wise. Everything about it is just beautifully painted. This one is painted by another legendary vintage paperback artist by the name of Robert Schultz. And I've got a Robert Schultz. I've got a hard-boiled detective painting by Robert Schultz hanging in my living room. But yeah,
so one of his signets.
Which was it? A signet?
He did a lot of hard-boiled signets.
I don't remember.
This is very realistic. You could tell this is later.
Yeah, but yeah, this is 70s at this point, you know. So, but yeah, very, very, very nice, and I love the fact that it is like a wraparound. He did this. He did it wider rather than vertical. You know.
Yeah, great atmosphere.
And it just really cool, you know, for me, I was a lover of all his the Robert Schultz 50s hard-boiled crime stuff. That's what I really love of his. But as a fan of Gothics, it was great to see one of those guys do some Gothic work as well, you know. Like Robert Maguire, my favorite guy in the crime, especially the femme fatale stuff, which I love the most. He almost had a second career doing tons of Gothics, you know?
Yeah, it's like, for me, it's interesting to see Walter Pop, similar, a guy who did crime and good girl stuff in the 50s.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's why I love it, you know? I mean, it's beautiful, but I especially like to see that, you know, my favorite 50s guys especially still, you know, doing a few 70s Gothics, you know? All right, so these next ones, here we go. I'm going to tell you, this next one is potentially, and I never have favorites, all right, Lowell, I'm going to tell you, I'm one of those people, I can't tell you a favorite of anything, okay? No favorite band, really, no favorite song, no favorite color, food, whatever. But I am so in love with this next cover that I almost could say it's my favorite Gothic of all time.
Let's see, baby.
Check this out.
Oh, that is awesome.
I've been in love with this since I discovered it like 15 years ago. It's a Hector Garrido, and my favorite thing is the middle ground. Those trees.
Yeah.
That forest of trees, man. The texture of them, the shape of them. Oh,
the lighting effects.
The lighting effect, the brown and gray color scheme for the whole thing. Oh my God, I just adore this one, man. I adore it. It's so much. And I own so many, you know, of these Gothic originals. And I know I own many Hector Garridos. And, you know, I befriended him many years ago. I used to have chats with Hector. And it made it very sad that I could not track this one. This one never appeared, you know? Yeah. And it's very, very sad because for me, oh God, I have no Gothics framed and hanging, but if I ever framed one, this would be the one if I could ever find it, you know? So
I'll tell you this. One thing you can be sure, he put an awful lot of work into that.
Oh no, yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
That's a labor of love.
Yeah. And I am indeed a tree man, a well-painted tree or a well-illustrated tree. I don't know if you remember, Rich, when I did a live sale on the last issue of The Swamp Thing by Mike Perkins, you know, I was really hoping nobody was going to buy that second to last page because I love that one panel with the tree and the tree roots. And just for that. And I did end up buying it, you know. It's the page that Covey claimed it and tried to buy it for me. And then I said, no. I felt bad. So I bought it myself. But yeah, I appreciate it, man. I love good, you know, beautiful settings, you know, buildings, vehicles. Yeah, man. I love it all for sure. Trees, hands. Yeah. Okay. And I think the next one is the last one of these regular ones. And then we're going to get into the final chapter, guys, with the original art. This next one I'm showing you, this is the last one of the standard Gothics, right? And the reason I showed it to you guys tonight is because it also has a true rarity. Okay, this next one is a true rarity. Why? Okay, I'll see who the first person in the chat is. Let's see who the first person in the chat is to type in what makes this next one an absolute true rarity. Okay, so don't say it, Lowell.
Nope.
Don't say it. Let's see.
I'm gonna take a sip of my drink. That's all.
All right, let's see if these guys figured it out. Okay, all right, here we go. And I would like to mention one final time that this one is painted by the ever amazing Enric Torres Pratt. He of Warren Publishing fame, especially Vampirella. And yeah, beautiful. Oh, baby, look at Mark. Mark the man, the first guy to point it out. You got it. You got it. So not a pale woman. Exactly. And Mark, not sure if you are aware, but this is the only Gothic. Okay, and that understand when I say this, I mean from basically 1965 when the Gothics began to where I kind of they started dying out in 77. And they kind of still here and there continued into 78, 79, even some publishers into the 80s. But by that point, it was dead as a genre, even though they kept trying to keep it alive. I basically counted as the heyday was around 65 or 66 to 77. And this is the only cover I've ever seen. And I've seen thousands. I wouldn't be surprised if I've seen every vintage paperback ever published in that time period. I'm not saying I have. From time to time, I see one that I feel, wow, that's a new one to me. Most of the time, I feel like I've seen them all, but this is the only one I've ever seen without a Caucasian woman, with anything other than a Caucasian protagonist. Which is really cool. I love that about it. And being the 70s, I love her afro. It's got that jacket from that coat that goes to above the knees, which I really love. Yeah. And yeah, painted by a master like Enric. Yeah, love it for all those reasons.
Beautiful tree too.
Sorry, what's that, Lowell?
Beautiful tree too.
Oh, yeah. Oh, of course. You can draw anything, right? So Gothsploitation needs to be exploited still? Yes, Jeff. Yes. Yes. So very, very cool. Let me do this. Right. And Marcus says, only Whoopi Goldberg and Miss Cleo can be black supernatural ladies in the 80s. I love Miss Cleo. Call me now for your free reading. You remember that one?
Yeah.
You remember that the nighttime?
Yeah.
Call me now. Good stuff, man. Miss Cleo, classic. Okay. All right. So, everyone, I am not only getting faint and thirsty, but I'm getting hungry because I haven't eaten since lunchtime. But I'm going to try to slog this way through so we can slog through these original art portion of this program. It's the fourth and final chapter, everyone. And here we go. I'll show you this. All right. Paperbacks, the original painted art, which of course is even more special to see. The art is more special to see in its original form. If you ever have the opportunity, than just on the books themselves. For those of us, who seek these things out online or in person. All right, and so let me bring this in. Well, first, let me change review.
Yeah, they're far less common than the books themselves, right? And more expensive, but they're incredible when you see them in hand, in person.
Yeah, exactly. Here we go. There we go. We don't have to overlap that way. So, Beast in View, really quick. I want to tell you guys, for those of you who don't know, Margaret Miller won an award for this novel. I believe back in the late 50s, but it was the 50s. This is the 70s reprinting. So the painting is from the 70s. But this novel, it used to be very, very famous. Beast in View, the reason it's so famous, because at the time, it is the first novel in which the now, I don't know if it's overused, but it certainly has been used multiple times. The trope of using split personality disorder as to explain the craziness that's happening in the story, right? This was the first novel in history to do that. That's to use split personality disorder as a plot element, you know? So it's got that claim to fame. And this is a very supernatural, almost Salvador Dali-esque painting. I adore it. I love it. I love it. But it's got Gothic vibes to it. It's not a Gothic novel. It's not a Gothic novel, but the painting's got those classic Gothic vibes, very surrealistic as well. And yeah, I really love this one. And Goths are supposed to be and pale. A stunner, says CJ. Indeed. Tortured mind. Yes. Creepy little girl. Indeed. That always adds to the creepiness. Yes, a novel of psychological terror. Exactly. They wiped out the artist's name on the printed cover. Exactly. They did that a lot on purpose too in the paperback novel business, Rich. They purposely did that throughout the 50s and 60s and 70s. Yeah. In that business, they often were so scared of competition that whenever they found an artist whose work they really enjoyed, they were scared that one of the other publishers would pilfer them, pay them more, right? And they were scared that they would either have to lose that artist or be forced to have to pay them more to keep them. And so they would often not, that's a big part of the reason why most publishers never credited the artists in paperback novels, and also why they purposely often cropped or even painted out. Okay? I'm not joking about that. I'm not exaggerating. They often painted out. Somebody in the office would just paint over the signature. Yeah, that's how protective they were about wanting to keep their artists working for them. You know, so pretty nutty. That is a much more interesting design, says Robert. Yes, well, very different, right? Very different, for sure. All right, next one is Blood Emerald by Vanessa Blake. That's the novel author, of course. This one is painted by, again, the legendary Robert Maguire. So Robert Maguire, very, very famous and very popular for his 50s and 60s crime noir novel covers. But more so than that, he was the artist who really popularized at that time the image of the femme fatale. So his femme fatale cover, so basically deadly women, right? Femme fatale is French for
girls with the guns.
Deadly women. So yeah, you see women on covers with guns that aren't going to take any shit from the guy on the cover. Yeah, that's what Robert Maguire was really, really particularly famous for. And again, he's my favorite of the artists from that era. And so I own this particular painting. This is a gigantic painting. I actually bought this with the intent of making it, at the time, my one and only framed Gothic. But at the time, I wasn't paying close attention when I bought it. And I didn't realize how ginormous this one was. This one is, I believe, 38 to 40 inches tall. It's either 38 or 40. I can't remember which one because there's a painting in my living room which is either 38 or 40. One is 38, the other one's 40. I can't remember which is which. And because it's so huge and I'm not able to really enjoy it on my wall, I always thought, you know, I don't know. I've never sort of put it out there, but this is one that just because of the sheer size of it, I probably at some point want to move on from, you know. But
you got to have a huge wall to display it. I mean, it's just one of those.
Exactly.
things.
Yeah, we have to be willing to have it, and then we got to be willing to give up that space, you know, where you could typically, because this will take up the space of, let's say, 2 or 3 really smaller paintings, let's say, you know. But yeah, it's really beautiful, and it's more like historical Gothic, you know, but a beautiful model, beautiful looking modern model. So yeah, really, really beautiful. Really
a nice creepy tree.
This one. And a nice creepy tree, of course, exactly. Oops, sorry about that. Wall power, indeed, yes, sir. Okay, so here we have again the blue taper. We saw it earlier on a different painting of it, but check this out, guys. This novel was reprinted many, many times, okay? And this particular painting, so this one was painted and published in 1971. It's by Hector Garrido. There's that name again, okay? Love the tree. Once again, love the green, all green, almost monochromatic in the background. And this tree and the woman in front of it with the candelabra, that's always a nice element. This is was so popular at the time that it was used not once, but twice. So they reused it again for a different novel called Stormhouse 2 years later. Okay, so now this was published in 1973. Indeed, One Lit Window, Marcus. Thank you. But even that wasn't enough. They didn't just love it enough to publish it twice. They then published it again for another novel in 1976. For a novel with a great title I love called The House of the Darkest Death. And that's actually a reprinting because the also very genius and legendary vintage paperback artist George Zeal did a classic House of the Darkest Death, an earlier printing of it, you know. So this is really cool. That's why I own this one. I own this painting. So it's fun. It's always fun to have it when you just love it because you love the artwork, you know. But kind of fun when they've used it more than once. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that was pretty common, you know, especially in earlier times when the artist didn't own the work. The publishing house would use it once or twice, and then they would ship it off to England, and they'd use it on a British edition of some other title.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because once they were back in those days, they were buying the rights to publish. And it was like, it wasn't even in the contract whether they could publish multiple times. And so that's why, since it was just up in the air, right? There was no details in these contracts. Yeah, they would take it. And man, if they sold it off to foreign publishers, yeah, no problem, whatever. The artist got paid one time for painting it, and that was it, you know?
That was it.
All right. Okay. Another beautiful, to me, the detail, just, oh my God, the finesse, the ability to do all that crazy railing on the balconies there, that blows my mind. And this is another Hector Garrido. I happen to own this one as well. And you should see this in person. And oh my God, it's mind-blowing, you know?
Yeah, the lighting effects again.
Yeah, man. And my gosh, even the trees, the leaves, the building, the texture and color of the building, like the color of the blue window, like everything about it is just so beautiful. You know, yeah, just gorgeous, just gorgeous. One of my favorites, this one. Yes, gorgeous, says Peter. Yes, sir. The brilliance, and I love the way the color of her dress pops against the other colors too. Says Rick. Rick agrees. Yes, sir. Really, really nice. All right. Okay, another one where I love, and again, Hector Garrido, another one I adore because, again, very, very different setting. Because this looks like suddenly they're in Italy.
Yep.
Right? And it's like, wow. Like it's got not a building, but it's got different buildings in the background, in the middle ground, you know. The fact
bridges. The bridges.
Sorry? Yeah,
the bridges.
And you see the guy underneath on the water, you know?
Yep.
And it's like, yeah, the reflections of the water. Yeah, so I figure it's got to be Venice, right? It looks to me like that would be Venice. So very, very different from the typical, the typical Gothic. So that's why I love this. The dark.
Yeah, the guy's steering a gondola. That's got to be Venice.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, exactly.
And the one lit window.
Oh, here we go. Our friends Peter pointed out Venice. Looks wide the way they cropped it.
Yeah, they cropped out a lot of the original painting. You'll find that quite often. The publisher did not use the whole painting, which is another reason why the paintings are awesome on their own.
Yeah, exactly. You get to see the painting, the whole thing as it was meant to be, you know? All right. So you guys may be familiar with this one because we saw it earlier as part of the Satanic Gothic 12-book series. And it's a Hector Garrido. And it's really cool. So not only is it for me really, really fun to have collected the Satanic Gothic novels, but as an original art collector, it was such a gas to be able to track down one of the paintings for the Satanic. There's only 12 books in the Satanic Gothic series. So to get one of the paintings for it, what a coup for me, you know. Really, really love this.
Yeah, beautiful.
Really nice. And I'm happy to say it's in very nice condition. A lot of the times, these older covers, the publishers kept them for a long time without giving them back to the artists. And they just kept them in warehouses. They didn't take care of them. They didn't respect the art. And a lot of them have like just schmutz stuck on it. A lot of them have scratches, but this is one of the rare ones that was in very, very, very nice condition. So very happy to have that. And this I wanted to show. So check this out. So I used to own this, but I have since sold it. I don't own it anymore. It's so different because of the fact that it's almost like a not childlike drawing, but a lot more simplistic than realistic, if you will. And I love the fact that it has, to me, if anybody is familiar with the novel, I look at this, the background, and what's happening in the background, and in my head I hear, "Last night I dreamt I went to Mandalay again." Anybody know what that's from? That's the first line of the novel, Rebecca. So for those of you who haven't read Rebecca, or maybe you saw Rebecca the movie, class, Peter, there's my man, Peter. Peter knows Rebecca. Yes. The mansion is in fire at the end of that story, and so that's why it kind of reminds me of that,
This is by Barbara Cartland, who was a super bestseller.
Yeah, Barbara Cartland romances. Yeah, she even had a newspaper strip for a few years. Yeah, a romantic newspaper strip. Comic strip.
Wow.
Yeah. Peter says he's seen the movie, reading the book right now. Wow. Yeah, Rebecca's awesome, man. Great movie. If you, yeah, guys, I highly recommend it if you're into old Hollywood. Great, creepy. There's a creepy sort of caretaker, a female older caretaker woman. She's the actress is sufficiently creepy, and I would love it if you guys watched it and then got back to me, because I feel like there's undertones of lesbianism in it. I feel like that creepy female caretaker is kind of meant to be lesbian, not sure. And that would be, very early showings of that, but yeah, fantastic story, really great. So, all right, next. There we go. Jerome Podwill. Probably about 11 feet tall. I mean, if you start from the head and work your eyes downward slowly,
Yeah.
you could feel like if she was 5'4" or something thereabouts, the feet would be where she currently has her knees.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tall drink of water, indeed, Rick. Yes, indeed. But I love the colors, rich reds. Again, monochromatic. Love that. And I own this one too. Yeah, love this one.
The creepy staircase.
I love staircases. The curving staircases. Yeah, I love that. Floating like a ghost. Actually, I'd like to say that she was floating like a ghost, Marcus, but she's not, because you can see the hint of her pointy little shoe on the step right there at the bottom, on top of the step, on that last step. Yeah. And next we have, check this out, another fun, and like you mentioned, Lowell, a German paperback.
Yep.
So yeah, they sent it off to Germany and let some German publisher use it. And all they did was flip it horizontally, so she's going the other way.
Yeah.
And it's always fun when you're doing research on this type of stuff, and you come across this stuff like because I didn't know early on. I had already owned the paperback novel and the painting years before I discovered that there was this German version of it.
Yeah. That's one of the fun things about paperback collecting is you never know when you're going to see some reuse or some odd thing connected to some book that you had that you never knew existed.
Yeah, exactly. And here we have The Haunted Heart. This one is one that I used to own. And a few years ago, I sold it to my friend Sarah. Sarah Berry, what up? She is a friend that I met on Facebook. Oh, I don't know, probably 15 years or something now, 12 to 15 years ago. And I felt like she was like a kindred spirit. I used to use my Facebook profile back then. I used to call myself illustration art. Okay, that's all I went by, was illustration art. And because I just wanted to use my Facebook profile to post original art along, of course, with the published covers of vintage paperbacks, magazine art, even earlier 20th century, but basically vintage American illustration. And I met her because she came across the channel, and I noticed that she used to be liking, everything that I posted, and then I found out that, she was totally into that stuff, same type of art. She was into Gothics. Like me, she's into old Hollywood, it's like I said, kindred spirit, and that's the kind of stuff that she posts also on her Facebook profile. If anybody wants to check it out, Sarah, Sarah, Berry, last name Berry. And she posts all kind of fun stuff. Even posts lately, she's been posting stuff like little videos of herself in costume, speaking like a Southern belle, And they're kind of funny. Yeah. So anyways, so I sold this one to her a couple years back. And it's really cool. Again, I love the whole sort of monochromatic effect of it. I love the fact that it looks like there's a lantern. Rather than her holding a lantern, it looks like she put it down and is standing over it under her dress. It looks like the lantern is there because that's the effect that the glowing effect it gives, you know. At least for me, you know. And this is Daryl Green, by the way, the artist, everyone, Daryl Green. That house would be uninsurable these days. It's like a California coast house, you know?
Yeah.
Fall off the cliff soon. He fell off that cliff while sleepwalking. Yeah. So, yeah, it's really, really cool. Go to the next one. All right. So you guys saw this earlier. Once again, Her Demon Lover by Luisa Bronte. And so yes, I decided to show you this one because not only do you know, it's a Satanic Gothic, but once again, I do own this one. So lucky me, I've managed to get two, not one, but two of the original paintings for the 12 out of the 12 original Satanic Gothics published by Avon. And yeah, this is one of the few books I've read. So this is the one where, the vampire's licking the nipples. So if you guys are interested, there's even sex to be had in this novel if you want to read it. But yeah, fun stuff. And the painting, look how much more beautiful the painting is. Look how much detail is lost in the published version. You know?
It's so much brighter.
Yeah, it's crazy. But yeah, beautiful and happy to own that one. And then, look at that. In France, somewhere in France. And this, by the way, this is a painting from, I believe, 1973 or there. 73. But the reprint in I believe it's France. It might be Belgium, though. I'm not sure. This reprint was all the way in 87. So almost 15 years later, you know?
That's pretty,
so I guess in 87, I guess their whole thing was, oh, let's try to bring back Gothics and see if we can find a market for Gothics, you know? And they went back and got one of the covers for an older one. So very, very cool. Gorgeous indeed, Rick. Where are the nipple saucers? What? Awesome cover. Thank you. Yes, indeed. So fine. Really bright. Yeah, and that's pretty, the cover, the painting, that's pretty accurate to life. I did my best I always try to get the original art to look as accurate as I can. So that's pretty accurate. And so we're almost done, guys. I think we only have about 6 or 7 more pieces. And so here we have one that I formerly owned, The Lake of Darkness by the legendary Robert Maguire. There's that name again. And I recently parted with this one only a few months ago to our friend Mark, who is in the live chat with us, quietly watching. And I beautiful colors. I love the blues. But again, I have so many paintings. I felt like I've sold a lot of paintings over the years, and I still have a lot that I need to part with. I want to keep most of my Gothics, but you know, I have so much art that is never going to see the walls, hanging on the walls, that even my Gothics, I've got to let go of some Gothics from time to time. So that's the only reason I parted with this one. Yeah. So Cove, and she's covering up. Yeah, so you can't see the nip.
And no, it's unusual. It's like she's younger looking. It's more of it's a little different, you know. The background is very muted.
Yeah, but I love those blues. And you know what's funny? Over the years, because I had it up on CAF, and over the years I had like 3 comic book guys who don't, you know, they don't collect this stuff. They don't really know anything about it. but they came across it and they never bought it, obviously, but like 3 guys reached out just to kind of tell me they were really, really tempted to buy it. You know, there was something about this particular one that they loved. You know, they ultimately never did, but it's funny, right? Like 3 different comic book art guys. This is the one that kept drawing, they kept getting drawn towards.
You know, it could be a painted cover for a comic. You know, comic book painted covers look different than, you know, line drawn covers.
Yeah, no, I agree. No relation to Dennis Cowan, Marcus. No relation. All right, next we got, here we go again. The Red Wine of Rapture, again from the Satanic Gothic by Enric. And yes, I do own this one as well, very, very proudly. So yes, not 2, but 3 out of the 12 Satanic Gothics I am the proud owner of. Very, very happy to have. Yeah, man, especially because it's one of these with the setting in the dungeon, so to speak, of the castle, you know? The blood, again, the blood spilling out of the wine goblet. Yeah, this is just so cool. So it's a lot of fun to own. A lot of fun.
You're a wild man with your collection, man. You know what stood out to me at first? The first thing that I noticed on the original painting is the intensity of the white light in that far hallway in the upper left corner.
Oh, it's coming off.
You just don't get that on the cover.
Yeah, it's coming off a candle. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Marcus says, are they considered more desirable the more times they are used? I wouldn't say that that's the case, but I would say it as when you find out it is kind of, in a sense, it kind of, I would say this, I don't think it necessarily makes it more valuable, but in a way you could say it is more desirable. Like, it's just more interesting because it makes you, you know, you already love it as a painting, and it's always nice, like when you collect published art, right? You get yourself a copy of the book. It's just always a lot more fun when you then find like, oh shit, look, another novel that it was published as, you know. So yeah, I don't know if you could call it more desirable, but it certainly makes it a lot more fun, you know. Yeah. Would you agree with that?
There's a little more to the story, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Owning 25% of the 12, inconceivable, and yet somehow it happened. You know,
he's a madman, I tell you.
Yeah, Peter is agreeing with you. Yeah, the candlelight intensity. Yeah. Well, that's it, and that's what the printing techniques of the day just couldn't. It just couldn't bring out. You know, so much cleaner. Yeah, so clean in original in the OG shape. Of course, exactly. Spill the wine. April wine. How about that? Anybody know that? What that reference? April wine. Anybody? No. Canadian rock band from the 70s and early 80s. No? Oh, man. You guys are disappointing me. Okay, next one.
Heart?
What's that?
Heart?
Do I know Heart?
No, is the band Heart?
No, I'm telling you, it's called April Wine.
Oh, that's the name of the band.
Yeah, April Wine is the name of the band.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Their classic album, early 80s. I think in 1981, Nature of the Beast. You gotta look that up. Great.
I'll have to.
Cover. I love Heart though. Like a candle in the wind. Nice one. Take that, girl. I own most of the April Wine catalog, says Rick. Wow, big April Wine fan. Yeah, love that, Rick. Wow. I to be honest, I know them because they're Canadian back in the day as a kid, but I never, you know, after the, you know, that Nature of the Beast album, I never sort of heard their stuff anymore, you know, so I'm not that familiar with their catalog. All right, next one, guys, just a handful more. So here you go, the Serpent Heart, and this one is painted by another legendary artist, Lou Marchetti. We've heard of him. We've seen a few earlier on, and this one is interesting from the respect that it also takes place in a different era, and I also believe it might be Italy. I don't remember exactly. I may have read the back cover, and it might have said something about being somewhere in Italy. So, which would be appropriate since Lou Marchetti was Italian. So, but yeah, really, really cool. It's got two spooky guys up there in the back too. So that's kind of interesting.
Yeah, beautiful reds.
Yeah, the reds are very vibrant and intense. You know? All right. And then we go from this one to this one, which I really, really, really love because of how different it is with the close-up of the building. And the thing is, it's a big place. But to me, it almost looks more like an old barn. Like it looks more run down than like wealth. Like, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like it looks like it wasn't taken care of as opposed to wealthy and well taken care of. And I love the fact that it's like a ghostly woman overlaying on top of it, and you could see right through her, you know?
Yeah.
Love that. Love that. Yeah. I own this original as well, too. And that's what I love about it. And man, you got to see the original in person. The texture, there's texture on it. All the details of her sleeves.
The lace.
The lace. Oh my God. Yeah, when you see it in person, oh my God, so amazing, man. So amazing. Rick had said, nice job on the stairs. I guess he meant this one, and I agree. Tom says, sexy on this one. Nice. I like that. I agree. That's a small house. She can't even fit in it. That's it. She's a giant. Creepy, overgrown, and abandoned. Yes.
That's Gothic.
That's Gothic for you, right? What is that? A school for ants? She's trying to fit into her childhood dollhouse, I guess. There you go. One lit window. So on this one, Peter, I haven't mentioned him yet tonight. It's the first time we've seen his work. He did not do that many covers that I've ever seen. And his name is Ron, R-O-N, Botham. So that's Hicenbotham. Botham. Ron Hicenbotham. Really amazing.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Fantastic piece. All right. So another one that I kind of miss. I used to own this and I parted with it, but I love the layout here. I love that the woman is actually up in the upper right quadrant, right? Instead of sort of centered at the bottom like they usually are, you know? Yeah. I love that. And the fact that, this is, by the way, vintage paperback artist Harry Barton who did this one.
Okay.
Yeah. He did a lot of these Gothics in the 70s. And yeah, I love the fact that he put her there and then gave a lot of attention to the waterway.
Yeah.
You know?
Very different.
Yeah. Really, really nice. And once again, very monochromatic in the background. And yeah, the building's there, but really, really far, really small. But yeah, I just love this layout. I really, really love the layout. But once again, it was just a factor of, you know, I gotta cull the herd a little bit, so I had to part with this one. And oh gosh, we down to 15. Yes. Hey, listen, we're a comic book art channel primarily, so I totally expected, you know, not a huge audience, and I certainly expected it to drop off if we went, you know, more than like 2 hours. I didn't think you guys would be able to put up with more than that of, you know, a type of art that you're not really familiar with, you know. So that's okay. And well, I do it because I love it and I like to work and do this kind of stuff with Lowell. So for our own interest, we wanted to do this. So that's all good. And hopefully it finds an audience over time on Rewind. That's what I'm hoping as well, you know. But here we go. The legendary George Zeal, one of my all-time favorite vintage paperback artists, and potentially one of my, if not the favorite of the Gothic artists, because he's probably the only one who, rather than only do suspense, he kind of also brought in an element of either horror / science fiction to it. You know, he would bring weird, creepy characters and put them in the background. You know, you got these guys all in black with white faces. Like, are they even human? You know what I mean? Like, it makes you wonder, right? Are they human? Like, what is that? Yeah, just really, beautiful. He always had this sort of wispiness to the paint strokes. Man, I love his stuff. I would love to do like we did with our Art of Raymond Johnson show. I would love to one day do an episode on the art of George Zeal, on his like a career retrospective.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I mean, Lynn Monroe has a great page on him, and you know, I would urge anybody to go look up that page, because when you read about George Zeal, you know, you realize he lived through the Holocaust, and it kind of shows in his paintings. You get that feeling of somebody who lived with real doom and dread.
Yeah, exactly. Oh yeah. Especially if you learn on Lynn Monroe's website, you learn his backstory. You can read it. It's about a 15-minute read in the Holocaust related stuff. Really good stuff, and it shows you how some of the imagery, a lot of the imagery that he put into his paperbacks, you can tell, or at least I assume, were probably invoked by the images that were in his head from the Holocaust, you know? By the way, Grace is still with us.
Hey.
Wow.
Or back with us.
Or back with us. Yeah.
That's cool. I'm glad she's seeing this. George Zeal is I mean, he's one of my favorite painters. He's just unbelievable. He paints beautiful people, but his backgrounds, like you say, even his plainest work there's just something hanging over them that's creepy. That's dread. You know, there's dread.
Dread. Yeah, good word. Yeah, exactly. What are they going to do to her? Exactly. They're going to give her a makeover. Run, Becky, run. Oh, she admits it. She came back.
Yeah. I'm sure she's working on her schoolwork.
Good. Keep studying. Keep up the good work, Grace. Your dad told me you've been doing well in school, so that's good. Keep it up. All right. Let's go now. I think it might be the last one. Let me see. Oh, we got two more slides. So, Lou Marchetti, one more time.
Beautiful.
Italian stallion himself. Beautiful piece. I used to own it. Since sold it. I love it because, again, different in that there's almost no building. It is there, but you don't notice it at first. But you know, how often do you see the woman with a dog? I mean, wow, a Doberman, right? A Doberman pinscher. Wow. So that's really cool. And there's a guy, again, you don't see them too often with the guys right nearby. And in this case, the man is not menacing, you know? He's not menacing. It's just like he's there and you know they're together. You know, I mean, he may be menacing, but he's not menacing her, in other words, is what I'm saying, you know?
Yeah. The color palette is incredible.
Yeah, incredible. It really is. Yeah, the original, it's beautiful. It's so beautiful. Yeah, I wish you could see the original. And what else? It could be a Loretta Lynn album cover. Hounds of the Holler. Really? I'll take your word for it. I'm not a Loretta Lynn fan, so I wouldn't be familiar with that, you know? Stormy skies are so much more interesting. Yes. Oh, yeah, that's another thing. The skies are just gorgeous. Stunning. Very stunning. All right. And so here, Hector Garrido. I own this one as well. I love this one, not only because of the vibrancy of the colors, but because of the setting once more. I was like, wow, look where it takes place. What is that? I really didn't know, but based on the building, I was like, oh my gosh, is this somewhere in the Orient? You know, is this somewhere in Asia? And then I tracked down the book and found out it's actually the story takes place in San Francisco's Chinatown.
Ah,
Yeah. And so that's why it looks like that.
yeah, but I've been to Chinatown in San Francisco, and it's not in a forest.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. That's what I was going to say. Interesting how San Francisco's Chinatown is bordered by the forest, right?
It's artistic license.
Yeah, artistic license for sure. I'm curious though. Do you think, is it possible that back when San Francisco, was still like in the later 1800s, when San Francisco, it was basically just empty land, right? And people only started to flock there because they had heard of the gold being found, right? So the gold rush started, but it was basically just land, nothing but empty land. Do you think maybe as it started to get initially built and Chinatown with the Chinese immigrants coming in, is it possible that Chinatown might have originally been built by a forest or no?
I mean, it's possible there could have been a pagoda in a forest somewhere, but maybe that's a plot novel for you to write, my friend.
Yeah. I'm good. I think I'll pass, but thank you.
Single light.
And San Francisco, it was a port town indeed. Yes, that's why. Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's why all they saw a lot of Chinese immigration going into the port in San Francisco for sure. The Shiwan Khan safe house, nice. But yeah, beautiful. I love you should see in person. Oh my God, the vibrancy of the colors.
Yeah, it looks like it's in great condition.
Yeah, oh yeah. It's one of those fantastic condition pieces as well. Exactly. Okay, now let me see. Are we just about done? Okay, we have definitely two more slides. Yeah, it's this one and then the last one. Or this might even be the last one. Anyways, so this one, there's no book, guys. I just wanted to show two paintings for which these are two of the few original art pieces in my collection that I have yet never been able to track down the cover to. I once did see the cover to the one on the right, and that one's painted by a gentleman named Steve Gross. Very ultra realistic. I saw it on eBay amongst a lot of vintage vintage Gothics that were being sold. Tiny, tiny picture. And then I never saw it again. The one on the left is painted by Franco Accornero, and he's a very famous artist for having painted many, many, many Harlequin, straight romance type paintings, especially throughout the 80s. And so I never even saw an image of the one on the left. So who knows? But I just thought, really fun stuff. And just because it's the only two that I don't have the books to, figured I'd show them. So no,
I'll freeze frame it.
Sorry, say again. No,
I'll freeze frame that. I'll keep a lookout for them.
Oh, okay. Both bangers. Thank you, CJ. Thank you. Sweeping. Okay. And yes, I do believe mysteries in themselves. Indeed, Peter. I do believe we got maybe one more. Let's see. Do I want? Yes. So this is the final one for tonight, everybody. Wait for what will come. And we end on another paperback cover by the legendary Robert McGinnis. He of the famous McGinnis Girls. And another example of how this time, I mean, in that first one I told you guys about where the castle was a close-up of the front of the castle, really gigantic, and the tiny girl running across from the castle on the bridge. So here we go again. He wanted to focus more on the setting rather than on the female, you know. Of course, the publisher still wants to sell it with the woman, so that's why they closed in and cropped a lot of it out, you know.
It
But
looks
it's
like they made a composite out of it
sorry.
because she's in front of the building on the cover.
Yeah,
She's
yeah,
not on the
exactly.
painting.
Exactly. They composited exactly. And back in those days, how would it have been done?
They probably would have made
Right,
a print. They would have made a print of it, and they would have cut it out,
right.
you know, and juxtaposed it. And it looks like they used a filter on it too, because the coloring's different.
Yep. Look at that. Leaves us on a cliffhanger. That's a clever one. I like that. Yeah, cut and paste. I guess you're right, though. I guess that's kind of the only way I could think of that they could do it back in those days, you know?
Yeah.
Super zoom indeed. What kind of butchery is this? Forced perspective. Photos. Yeah. So
You're taking some photos with some filters.
Let me come back. And let's come back this way. And say, that's it, everybody. That is it. 3 hours, 45 minutes. But we managed to put in, oh gosh, well over 100 images in this. So I think that's quite a successful kind of way to do something that could potentially introduce a larger audience in the future to vintage Gothic paperbacks and Gothic paperback art, you know, Lowell?
Yeah, well, it's cool because, you know, we're doing this live, but as you said, you know, people can look at it on the
Rewind.
rewinds, and you know, there's a lot of information there that's just there, and anybody who's watched any part of this can come back and look at it and you know, stop on any of those covers that they like or any part of the conversation and kind of, you know, zero in on that. So it's a piece of art history that's just going to live on the internet now.
Yeah, I mean that's what we hope, right? That's what we hope. That's certainly indeed the hope, and hopefully people find it. I got to be honest, I didn't make any effort to go out into any kind of Facebook groups online, you know, whether it's vintage paperback groups, Gothic type, you know, groups that are, you know, whether it's about Gothic clothing or anything, to try to promote it. But I figured, I knew typically we have a usual crowd, the same crowd that you know, the people that show up to all my shows, which I really appreciate you guys. So thanks as always again. And I was scared that if I promoted the live stream, it might bring in a whole bunch of new people that would make it almost impossible for me to sort of take any of the comments in the chat, you know? And so, but I figured, okay, we'll do it live like this. And then after it's live, once it's there permanently on YouTube, then I can maybe start looking for places to kind of try to promote the link, put the link in and promote it, where they can watch it on Rewind, you know?
Yep. I mean, I put it to a few of my friends and a couple of sites, but kind of last minute. But it looks like we got some, you got some people from here and there as well.
Yeah, so, for sure.
It's pretty cool.
Thank you, Ron. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thanks for dropping in. Mark as well. Mark probably went to bed and he'll email you after tomorrow, you know.
Mark knows a lot himself.
Stuff. Thank you, Lowell and Ruben from Peter. Thank you, Peter. Appreciate it. Thank you to all of you, especially you guys that are still here, that have been here since the beginning. You guys are obviously the ones I care about the most. For always supporting me no matter what I do, no matter what I show, even when it's not comic book related stuff, and you still show up all the time. So it means a lot, man. So I really appreciate that. So thank you guys 1,000,000 times over. You should find some comic Gothic covers to follow this up. Unfortunately, they only published a few, right, Lowell?
Well, only a few that were like actual Gothic titles, like Dark Mansion. But like I said, like House of Mystery and House of Secrets did ton of them. You know.
Yeah. Thank you, Rick. Yeah, no, I don't mean that. I mean ones that were intended to look just like the Gothic paperbacks, right? The sinister secret of haunted house or whatever. That thing. You know?
Dark Mansion of Forbidden Love. Those are the two.
Yeah, right.
Those are the two that come to mind.
Exactly. You know, so that's it. So we will. The Dark Mansion comic has a great cover. Yes. Although I do believe, I'll have to look it up again, but I do believe it's not an original painting. I think it's a George Zeal cover. I think it's taken from a paperback novel and repurposed. I'm not sure. Maybe if we do a George Zeal, focus on George Zeal career for that show, if we do that, I'll look it up and try to get that knowledge so that we can drop the correct information for you guys and let you all know, you know. But thank you, Rickster. Appreciate it as always, man. Thank you. And that's it. Most importantly, Lowell, thank you, my friend. I appreciate it. It's been almost 3 years. Who knows? At this point, it might be 3 years. Way too long to do something like this with vintage paperbacks. So we should definitely do another one a lot sooner than this. The next time,
100%. We're going to do it. I have more time now, so we'll do it 100% more often than that.
Cool, man. Cool.
And thanks for inviting me on, man. It's fun.
Yeah, no. Hey, listen. Thank you for being here. I appreciate it. So we're going to leave you guys out with that, everyone. Next week, I'm probably going to just hang out with you guys. I don't have anything planned for next week, so probably just do another hangout. And yes, indeed, Tom, another 4-hour show in the books. Not quite, but close. And we'll probably just hang out. We'll talk about movies, whatever comics you're reading, maybe original art, if there's anything to talk about in terms of comic book art. We'll just do that. After tonight's talking, I'm exhausted, and I need a little break where we just kind of talk about whatever. And of course, as always, it'll be an open studio, which means anybody can come in. So hopefully at least one or two of you will be willing to pop in, even if it's only for a little while. Yeah, man, let's have some fun, shoot the shit. So please don't forget, check out Nikki B's on the EXP this coming Friday at 7 o'clock Eastern, 4 o'clock Pacific. And then again, as always, be back here to hang out with us live at 8 o'clock Eastern, 5 o'clock Pacific next Sunday. And till then, have a great week, everybody. And peace, everyone. We will talk soon.
Peace out.
See you next week. And as always, Michigan won yesterday. So not a great win, but a win is a win. So as always, I got to say it. Oh, hold on. I'll finish with you, Tom. Indeed. Go blue, baby. Go blue.